As a mutant, I immediately noticed Director Li quietly following behind Zhang Gaoha. Li Bang. Zhang Gaoha froze for a moment, but quickly understood. He must have come with the group of scientists I brought over. Actually, when the outbreak first started, Zhang Gaoha's wife turned into a zombie, and he had to pull the trigger himself to end the life of the woman he loved most. That incident became an unhealing wound in his heart. Because of that, when he arrived at the Heiyuan safe zone and reunited with his brother-in-law, Director Li, Zhang Gaoha always took special care of him. In the past, Director Li was just a low-level manager at Heiyuan First People's Hospital. After the safe zone was established, thanks to Zhang Gaoha backing him up, and his own shrewd maneuvering, he gradually became the head of administration at the Research Institute. That place was full of scientists who only cared about burying their heads in experiments. No one bothered with administrative work, so everything fell into Director Li's lap. Gaoha. Director Li stumbled over, tightly gripping Zhang Gaoha's arm. I saw Zhang Gaoha frown slightly. He clearly felt Director Li trembling all over. Are you okay? Zhang Gaoha asked. Director Li hesitated for a second, then forced a stiff smile, saying he was fine, just still shaken from being scared earlier. Then, he suggested going with Zhang Gaoha to find a doctor because staying here made him feel uneasy. Zhang Gaoha originally wanted to ask a few more questions, but mentioning a doctor reminded him of the main task. He told him to go upstairs and find a room to rest. No need to tag along. I'll see if I can help with anything. Director Li insisted on following, glancing back toward the hospital gates. His resentment-filled eyes locked onto me. By now, there weren't many infected left. The special forces were more than capable of holding the hospital gates. I carried Jiang Zhuiying off the minibus. It was too cramped inside for a medical examination, so I decided to take her upstairs. Li Yusin immediately followed, saying she'd only feel at ease if she stayed by Zhuiying's side. She had been taking care of Zhuiying all this time and didn't want to leave her side for even a second now. Besides, her grandparents and mother were still on the minibus, perfectly safe. Ren Xiu also got off, saying she wanted to listen to the doctor's diagnosis for future reference. I nodded in agreement. In our team, Zero was also on the verge of evolving. Learning more about level 2 mutants would definitely be useful, even if this situation wasn't entirely certain yet. Peng Dinglong called 2 soldiers over to lead me to the waiting room. The 2 of them were incredibly excited to have the chance to interact with me up close. Meanwhile, Zhang Gaoha walked up to an office guarded by soldiers. He opened the door. Inside were about 10 doctors and nurses. He looked around, then called out 2 older doctors, telling them to come with him. On the way, he explained the situation and asked if they needed to send someone to fetch the serum. Dr. Qiao said there was no need, as all the serum was in the thermal box he was carrying with him. This was extremely important and in short supply, so during the hasty retreat, he had personally carried it and kept it safe. I saw Director Li standing behind Zhang Gaoha, his eyes glued to the thermal box. Zhang Gaoha asked if he needed help carrying it, but Dr. Qiao shook his head, saying the serum was in very fragile glass syringes. If it dropped and broke, it'd be all over. Li Bang, why are you still here? Zhang Gaoha turned around, realizing Director Li was still following closely behind. Director Li lowered his head, saying this was to treat my people. He knew very well that without me, he would have died long ago and never had the chance to survive and reunite with Zhang Gaoha. So he wanted to tag along and see if he could help. The 2 doctors, carrying the thermal box and medical kit, were led ahead by the soldiers. Zhang Gaoha reluctantly agreed to let Director Li follow. As they passed a glass window, Director Li glanced inside, and his face instantly turned pale. He reached up and pulled at his collar, revealing a wound on his neck. The wound was no longer bleeding, but he felt as if something was wriggling inside. As they neared the hospital room, he even heard my voice chatting with someone. The 2 soldiers were excitedly asking me about my shooting skills, constantly expressing their admiration. Those words pierced Director Li's ears like sharp thorns, igniting the hatred in his heart and shattering his last bit of hesitation. Dr. Qiao, that looks heavy. Let me carry it for you. Director Li stepped up quickly, reaching out to grab the thermal box, a malicious glint flashing in his eyes. Dr. Qiao was startled. He quickly dodged to the side, pulling his hand back and saying there was no need. Right then, a soft female voice echoed directly in Director Lee's ear, making his blood run cold. "It's best if you don't touch that." That voice rang straight in his head, as chilling as the call of the Grim Reaper. By now, the others and I had stepped out of the hospital room. Director Lee immediately saw the gray-eyed girl standing next to me, her appearance and aura incredibly striking. Just by seeing her gaze fixed on him, he understood that the voice just now had come from her. I looked straight at Director Lee and said coldly that he had less guts than a mouse. Yet he actually thought about stealing the serum. He really didn't know his own limits. Director Lee stood frozen in place, his entire body turning ice cold. He had calculated how to make his move countless times in his head. But when truly facing me, his fear completely spiraled out of control. The sight of me fighting earlier was etched deep into his mind, displaying a terrifying, irresistible power. All the resentment built up in Director Lee's heart finally vanished, leaving only pure terror when standing before me. Zhang Gaohe was stunned. He had originally planned to say a few words to Director Lee, but he never expected him to actually dare to snatch the box. Seeing Director Lee's pale face and his body stiff as a statue, Zhang Gaohe instantly realized that my words just now were absolutely not baseless speculation. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed Director Lee's wrist tightly. Clang! A handgun dropped straight to the floor. "Li Bang!" Zhang Gaohe squeezed his arm, his voice full of disbelief. He demanded to know what the hell he was trying to do, asking if he knew this action was enough to get him executed on the spot. Director Lee trembled, a look of despair appearing in his eyes. I watched him coldly, thinking to myself that it was a good thing Rin Xiu had sensed the fluctuation in his emotions in time. Otherwise, something really could have gone wrong with the serum. I can't live anymore anyway," Director Lee muttered, trembling. Zhang Gaohe didn't hear him clearly and pressed him on why he would do such a thing. Director Lee was his wife's only surviving relative, so Zhang Gaohe truly didn't want to push him to his death. But the evidence was too clear now. To appease me, Director Lee would definitely have to face severe punishment, at the very least being locked up for a while. At the same time, Zhang Gaohe knew he had to go through all the necessary procedures so I wouldn't feel dissatisfied. Right then, Director Lee suddenly opened his mouth and bit down hard on Zhang Gaohe's arm. This was completely unexpected. Zhang Gaohe cried out in pain, reflexively yanking his arm back and throwing Director Lee away with a forceful swing. He crashed to the ground and didn't even bother getting up, not even wiping the blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "Are you crazy?" Zhang Gaohe looked at the deep teeth marks on his arm and roared in anger. Fortunately, with the physique of a mutant, his skin and flesh were tough enough. It only left deep indentations without tearing the skin. "Ha ha!" Director Lee chuckled darkly, not saying another word. I stood to the side, watching this whole drama unfold. Just then, Li Yusin leaned close to my ear and whispered a few words. I let out a soft chuckle, then looked at Director Lee and asked bluntly, "You're injured, aren't you?" Zhang Gaohe's expression instantly changed. He turned to me, asking what I meant. I told him to check Director Lee himself. He was injured, and what's more, he intended to take revenge on me. After being exposed, he bit Zhang Gaohe. He clearly wanted to wait for him to turn and cause internal chaos, dragging down as many people as possible. If possible, he probably wanted all of us to die here. Director Lee didn't deny it, only flashing a grotesque smile. Originally, he planned to take Dr. Qiao hostage and destroy the serum, but the plan failed. By this point, his sanity had completely collapsed. Zhang Gaohe's face darkened. He never expected that, with no one else to target, Director Lee would choose to attack him. He growled that Li Bang was no longer human. Right then, Li Yusin, standing next to me, spoke up. She said she had actually found a treatment method, but it could only be applied to the newly infected. She had studied a type of parasite and tried using her medical mutation to destroy and eliminate them. These parasites multiplied incredibly fast inside the body, invading the entire physiological system before attacking the brain. Once it reached that stage, no medicine would work. Her medical mutation could directly target the parasites, but if they had already completely taken over the body, treatment would be meaningless. Even if the parasites were destroyed, the human body would already be ruined, and the only outcome would be death. These words struck like a bolt of lightning. Director Lee immediately snapped his head toward Li Yusin, his eyes filled with a crazed hope. He screamed, begging to be saved, as if he had just grasped the last straw for survival. He never imagined that this girl actually had a cure. I took a step forward, but turned to Zhang Gaoha and said, "If you had dealt with Director Li according to the rules from the very beginning, things wouldn't have ended up like this." As soon as I finished speaking, my right hand flicked out like a magic trick. In an instant, a gun appeared in my hand. Its dark muzzle pointed straight at Director Li. "No, no." Director Li shook his head in a panic. All his previous actions stemmed from the belief that he was definitely going to die, so he had given up, throwing away all hope with his own hands. But right now, when a chance at survival suddenly appeared, his desire to live flared up fiercely. Too bad I had no interest in hearing any more of his nonsense. A bullet hole appeared on Director Li's forehead. He twitched a few times before collapsing to the ground. His body was still twitching slightly, but it was clear he hadn't been fully controlled like the previously infected, who would still try to attack even after death. Zhang Gaoha quietly watched the scene. As Director Li died, a complex emotion flashed in his eyes, and he let out a soft sigh. I was right. According to the rules, he should have dealt with Director Li from the start. But because he wanted to spare the life of his wife's only relative, he had almost made a grave mistake. In the end, I was the one who had to step in and resolve it, which made Zhang Gaoha feel his own dereliction of duty even more deeply. "This is all my fault," Zhang Gaoha said in a low voice. As the true person in power, responsible for protecting Area A, he now had to bow his head and apologize to a survivor like me in front of his own soldiers. This was the first time in his life he had ever done such a thing. "Yusin," I called out. Li Yusin nodded, looking over at Zhang Gaoha but saying nothing. Zhang Gaoha felt time pass so heavily it was suffocating, every second dragging on like a lifetime. Finally, Li Yusin opened her mouth, shaking her head and saying he wasn't infected. Zhang Gaoha breathed a sigh of relief. Even though his skin wasn't broken, just being bitten was enough to leave him on edge. Glancing at the gun in my hand, a chill still ran down his spine. He knew very well that if Li Yusin had concluded he was infected just now, I absolutely wouldn't have hesitated to pull the trigger. And with my marksmanship, he wouldn't have had any chance to escape. I spoke up, telling them to let the two doctors examine Zhuing first. I had shot Director Li because he still harbored intentions of destroying the serum. As for Zhuing, she was still lying in the hospital bed, having been in a deep sleep for days, and I truly hoped she would wake up soon. Zhang Gaoha hurriedly invited Dr. Wei and Dr. Qiao into the room. The two walked up to the bed, while Li Yusin also returned to Zhuing's side, calmly detailing her condition. Thanks to her mutation, she didn't need a stethoscope or medical equipment. She could directly and accurately describe Zhuing's current state. Dr. Wei pondered for a moment before saying that Zhuing was actually in the process of evolving. As for why this condition occurred, they couldn't explain it, because the evolution of mutants was still an uncharted field. Every mutant had a different evolutionary path, and the process was incredibly complex. However, he confirmed that this serum had been tested about 10 times and proven effective on all mutants, regardless of their evolutionary state. Hearing this, I finally felt somewhat relieved. As long as the serum worked, that was enough. Dr. Qiao looked at Zhang Gaoha. Seeing him nod in confirmation, he carefully placed the thermal box on the table, opened it, and gently took out a vial of serum. I saw the transparent vial of serum. It was a pale red, reflecting a faint purple hue under the sunlight, looking like a special kind of glass. Li Yusin helped lift one of Zhuing's arms, revealing her smooth, pale skin. The needle pierced her vein, and the serum was slowly pushed into her body. I stood by the bed, gently holding Zhuing's other hand, saying she had slept for so many days, it was probably time to wake up. As if hearing my voice, Zhuing suddenly opened her eyes and sat bolt upright. In that instant, her eyes were filled with a silver light. The glow flashed like lightning before quickly vanishing, and she fell back onto the bed. I was still holding her hand, feeling not only the power surging within Zhuing's body, but also an abnormally scorching heat. That sensation was completely unlike human body temperature. Even the metal bed beneath her began to emit cracking sounds. I immediately let go of her hand, shouting for everyone to step back, while pulling Li Yusin quickly backward. The two doctors, and Zhang Gaoha also hastily backed away. Right then, arcs of electricity began dancing across Zhu Ying's body, as if an electrical grid was enveloping her entirely. Silvery white currents spread across the metal bed, illuminating the entire room in a pale white glow. Everyone felt their hair stand on end, their skin stinging as if pricked by needles. The two doctors and Li Yusin couldn't bear it and hurriedly ran outside. Zhang Gaoha also retreated to the door, staring in shock at the girl lying on the bed. He never expected that such a slender body could harbor such terrifying power. A mutant was already very strong, but now evolving to level 2, the burst of energy was truly chilling. Standing outside the door, looking through the glass, everyone saw the silver electricity flashing incessantly. The current conducted through all the metal objects in the room. On her hands, her face, and even in Zhu Ying's eyes, blinding arcs of electricity sparked. I stood watching quietly. Having enhanced my skin's endurance with the genetic fluid, I could still withstand this stinging sensation. Watching the electric currents wrapping around Zhu Ying, a sense of satisfaction couldn't help but well up inside me. When I first found Zhu Ying, the voltage she could discharge was only about 1,000 volts. At that time, it was already considered very strong. An adult electric eel could discharge a maximum of about 800 volts, enough to kill a normal person. But now, mutants were constantly evolving. People like Tang Chongfei or Li Yinchang had long surpassed human limits. To them, 1,000 volts was probably nothing. Zhu Ying had previously realized back in Shuangwu County that her voltage wasn't strong enough to deal with mutants who possessed abnormally tough bodies. But now, she had evolved. There were no measuring tools right now, so no one knew exactly what level Zhu Ying's voltage had reached. But just looking at the electricity blanketing the room, even I could sense the danger, proving that her attack power was absolutely not weak. Zhu Ying was a mutant whose body cells had mutated into electricity-generating cells. This type of mutation evolved very slowly, but once it did, the explosive power was incredibly terrifying. Actually, I had guessed that the reason she fell into a deep sleep was precisely because of the nature of this mutation. And now, it seemed Zhu Ying was finally waking up. She gently reached out her hand, and instantly, the electric currents in the room seemed to be pulled by an invisible force, rapidly gathering at her fingertips. The arcs of electricity converged above Zhu Ying, forming a flickering cloud of lightning. Her slender fingers and the terrifying energy intertwined, creating a scene that was both beautiful and brimming with power. I quietly watched the scene before me, and the image of Zhu Ying as a child unconsciously surfaced in my mind. Back then, she used to act like a little tyrant in front of other kids, but was as obedient as a kitten with me, always tagging along behind me. Yet now, she held such terrifying power in her hands. Right then, the voice of the starseed sounded in my head, announcing the detection of level 2 mutant energy. A level 2 mutant. Zhu Ying had officially stepped into this tier. A level 2 mutant was qualified to establish their own faction. If she joined the military, she could absolutely become a powerful female general. People like Yi Bao, Li Yinchang, or Tang Chongfei were the type who could make countless people wary just by stomping their feet. Zhu Ying had just evolved. Once she fully mastered her power, what level would she ultimately reach? Even I couldn't help but look forward to it. Boom. All the electricity in the room suddenly vanished, entirely concentrated at Zhu Ying's fingertips. She looked around, then turned to look at me, her eyes still carrying a dazed expression, as if she had just woken up from a very long dream. Brother, Zhu Ying spoke, her voice a bit hoarse from not speaking for so long. I helped her sit up and asked if she felt unwell anywhere. Zhu Ying shook her head, saying her body felt great, while staring intently at her palm, clearly feeling the change in how she discharged electricity. The surging power endlessly flowing through her body made it impossible for her to hide her excitement. She blushed and said she had evolved, then smiled brightly, declaring that from now on, she could protect me. I smiled and raised my hand. Zhu Ying reflexively shrank her head back. But this time, I didn't knock her on the head. I just gently rubbed the top of her head, saying that from now on, I'd be relying on her. Zhu Ying stuck out her tongue, not replying. In this apocalyptic world, I was her only remaining family. Before the apocalypse, we had relied on each other, and after reuniting in the apocalypse, We had always fought side by side. Those words just now were only a joke. The person Zhuiying could truly rely on would always be me. I rubbed her head, teasing that she was already a level 2 mutant but still acting like a spoiled child. Zhuiying rolled her eyes in response, saying that even a level 2 mutant was still human. We chatted for a bit more, then I let the people waiting outside, like Li Yusin, come in. As soon as she walked in, Yusin immediately went to Zhuiying's side, checking her physical condition and asking how she felt with great care. Zhuiying also knew that while she was in her deep sleep, Yusin had taken great care of her, so when she approached, she affectionately held her hand. Off to the side, Zhang Gaoha observed quietly, thinking to himself that a level 2 mutant, plus me and the mobile base vehicle, this was truly a team that hit its depths too well. Not long after, the Special Forces soldiers cleared out the remaining infected at the hospital gates. They needed to quickly escort the doctors and equipment to retreat before other waves of infected swarmed in to surround them. When we went downstairs, Peng Dinglong smiled and said they were preparing to pull out. He suggested waiting until everything was thoroughly resolved and my team could go with them to the Xiaowu military base. Area A was no longer habitable, and even the normal areas in the safe zone were being evacuated. His base was currently the safest place to receive important personnel. I asked when the issue with the infected would be resolved. Peng Dinglong's face turned serious. He said the parasite nest was nearby, and the parasites were very good at hiding. With their current methods, it was hard to detect them. However, the Heiyuan safe zone had existed for a long time. They couldn't just abandon it, nor could they move all the survivors elsewhere. Previously, the Zhonghai safe zone was forced to evacuate and suffered massive losses. Everything they had built was destroyed by mutant beasts and zombies, turning into a dead zone no one dared approach. He said a plan to destroy the parasite nest would definitely be drawn up soon. There was no way the Heiyuan military forces couldn't handle a single parasite nest. His tone became impassioned. After all, with just one vehicle, I had managed to create such a huge impact and save the people trapped in the hospital. If he led an entire army and still failed, he truly wouldn't have the face to keep his position. Right then, Peng Dinglong's expression suddenly turned strange. He lowered his voice, saying the radio had just been restored, and they received some news. Li Yinchang's arm had been crippled. He had been infected, but immediately bandaged it and decisively chopped off the arm, ultimately avoiding full infection. Perhaps it was also because he was a level 2 mutant, his body much stronger than others, let alone ordinary people. I said nothing. Previously, Li Yinchang had wanted to use me as bait. With my personality, someone who always remembers every grudge, hearing this news brought me absolutely no sympathy. I just casually remarked that keeping his life was already a stroke of luck. Peng Dinglong looked at me deeply. Actually, he hadn't said everything he knew. Over the radio, Li Yinchang was still looking for me, but seeing my reaction, he clearly understood that I didn't like the guy. It was unclear why Li Yinchang was looking for me, nor did he know what happened in that small town that day. But today he owed me a favor, so he chose not to disclose this information. He walked over to his guard and whispered that they should treat the radio intel as if they had never heard it. He glanced at the radio receiver in the guard's hand, then reached out and turned it off completely. Back on the bus, I explained the situation to Yusin, then turned to Elder Su and Professor Su, telling them they could decide for themselves whether to stay or leave. Think it over carefully. When you have an answer, tell me. No matter what you choose, I'll support it. Yusin looked at me with eyes full of gratitude. I had gone to Area A to save her family, and now I was saying such things. I just waved my hand, signaling that there was no need for thanks. My trip to Area A had its own purpose anyway. Besides, I had been planning to leave the Heiyuan safe zone for the past few days, as my goals here were pretty much accomplished. The serum and the loot from the beast nest left me very satisfied. Just now, when Peng Dinglong mentioned Li Yinchang, even though I didn't say anything, I was secretly speculating. The fact that I discovered Division Commander Wang's abnormality had definitely caught the attention of the military, especially people like Li Yinchang. Even though there could be many explanations, being interrogated by the military was still extremely troublesome. No matter how strong I was, I couldn't face the military head-on, so I didn't want to invite trouble. Following Peng Dinglong's troops, My team and I quietly left the safe zone gates without drawing attention. His military base wasn't far, located in the suburbs of the old city. After driving for a bit, I steered the minibus and quietly turned onto a small road. Peng Dinglong turned a blind eye, pretending not to notice. He knew I still had 2 scientists on board, but if I had decided to keep them, he couldn't stop me. Even trying to get those 2 back would be very difficult, let alone the fact that Yusin was following her family. Therefore, he tacitly let us leave. Zhang Gaohe glanced back, thought for a moment, and also said nothing. On the minibus, Zhu Ying was looking at a map on a tablet. The vehicle followed the route and stopped in front of a villa-style restaurant. A few zombies that rushed out were instantly wiped out. Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan jumped off the bus, guns in hand, dragged the corpses into a hidden spot, covered them with weeds and branches, and sprinkled some disinfectant to mask the smell of blood. This place might not attract many zombies, but with weeds as tall as a person all around, who knew if any mutant beasts were prowling about? Even so, Zhang Hai joked that if a mutant beast came, it'd just mean fresh meat. Now, even he wasn't afraid of running into 1 or 2 of them. Zero also hopped off, smiling as she said that since I could drive a vehicle to kill a mutant beast mother, there was no reason to fear ordinary mutant beasts. After saying that, she instantly vanished. I didn't mind her whereabouts, because when not fighting, Zero either sat quietly by herself or acted very freely. I decided we'd rest here for the night. Zhu Ying started helping Yusin prepare dinner, and soon, a delicious aroma spread everywhere. Yusin suggested making hot pot today, since Zhang Hai had somehow managed to find a bag of hot pot seasoning. Zhu Ying happily agreed, while I couldn't help but laugh, pointing out that there wasn't a single dish she didn't like. As long as it was food, she loved it. No wonder she was the first to evolve. Zhu Ying puffed her cheeks and argued back, saying I was implying she ate too much, even though she had just woken up. Right then, Zero returned. Her doll-like face was as cold as usual, and she reported in a soft voice that she had checked the surroundings and there were no issues. She had left just now to scout the situation inside the restaurant. Shortly after, Yusin poked her head out of the minibus and called me. I understood that her grandfather and mother had probably finished thinking it over. Su Tong, a woman with an intellectual aura, said softly that initially, they hadn't wanted to bother me and little Ren. But after the incident in Heiyuan, they worried that if they stayed here, they'd sooner or later face an evacuation like the Zhonghai safe zone. This time when I came to Heiyuan, Elder Su and Su Tong felt very guilty, but when they learned I came for Zhu Ying, they felt more at ease. However, if they ran into trouble again in the future, given how I treated Yusin, would I really be able to just not come and help? The answer was definitely no, and that was exactly what they didn't want. Su Tong said they were both researchers. Wherever they went, the government would protect them, so it was best not to keep bothering me. After thinking it over carefully, they wanted me to take them to Yusin's hometown. It wasn't too far. Before the apocalypse, it was sparsely populated, and according to radio news, a safe zone had formed there, not large, but developing quite well. That area was desolate and relatively safe. Elder Su nodded, adding that some experts researching evolutionary crystals from the Zhonghai safe zone had also been transferred there. Previously, he and Su Tong had researched evolutionary crystals, zombies, and mutant beasts, and had originally intended to go there anyway. They were protected by the government, didn't lack food or clothing, and didn't have to face zombies directly, so they should do what they could. Even if they couldn't fight, at the very least, they could contribute their efforts in the lab. I disagreed. The 2 professors and the scientists doing research were incredibly important to humanity. How could they say they were only contributing a little? I said that on this point, I truly respected them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have risked my life to save those scientists in the first place. Even if it wasn't for Yusin, I was still willing to take Elder Su and Professor Su to a safe place. Zhu Ying being able to wake up today was also thanks to the people in the lab working day and night to research the serum. Besides, going back to our hometown means we might find our relatives, Su Tong said. If she had family by her side to take care of her, Yusin wouldn't have any lingering worries. The place we want to go might even be of help to you. Su Guangkai suddenly spoke up, saying he heard Yusin mention that I needed some rare metals. I was a bit surprised. It was true that I needed metals. I had even asked Tang Chongfei to help me find some earlier. But after what just happened, even if he himself was probably fine, the Hushui faction was definitely in chaos. In the apocalypse, there were too many variables. No one could be sure of anything. If I just waited for a reply from Tang Chongfei, who knew when I'd get any results? Su Guangkai said that in the area they wanted to go to, there were several rare metal and new material companies. It was very likely I'd find what I needed. A hint of joy leaked into Zhu Ying's voice, and I was genuinely surprised. That was fantastic, though I also understood that even if those companies still existed, gathering enough materials definitely wouldn't be easy. But finding anything was better than nothing. Just taking one step forward was enough to help me upgrade the mobile base. Right now, there were too many people on the bus. Upgrading had become extremely urgent. I asked where they wanted to go, and Yusin replied, Jiangning City. Hearing those two words, I froze for a moment, an indescribable sense of nostalgia welling up inside me. I glanced at Zhu Ying and saw her pause as well, not knowing what she was thinking. Jiangning wasn't far from Jiangbei, where we used to live before the apocalypse. It was only a few hours' drive. But if we went back there, we'd have to pass through Jiangbei. My mobile base vehicle had also departed from there when the apocalypse first broke out. I didn't expect I'd have to go back there once again. I said I had been to Jiangning a few times before, but I didn't know there were material companies like that there. Even if someone lived their whole life in a city, if they didn't work in a related field, they wouldn't know everything, let alone me, who had only visited Jiangning a couple of times. Before the apocalypse, people were used to satellite navigation. You just entered a destination, and the system would guide you, even calculating traffic rules and lanes. But now, let alone navigation, even the roads were hardly clear. From Heiyuan to Jiangning was a journey of several hundred kilometers, and we still had to find the industrial zone. Even Elder Su, who had been there before, now only vaguely remembered the direction. To avoid getting lost, we used a section of the highway as a landmark, driving along the edge. Of course, the highway had long been blocked by abandoned cars. Those once shiny cars, many of them were now piles of scrap metal, stained with dried black blood. Ever since the outbreak, they had been abandoned forever and would remain there eternally. Below the highway, the situation wasn't much better. The vehicle bumped along continuously. By evening, it started to rain. A gray curtain of rain fell over the long road, as if trying to drown everything. I watched the raindrops pattering against the window and said with some frustration that the road was already bad enough. With the rain, our speed was no better than a crawl. Yusin smiled and replied that I was still lucky. In this off-road condition with such heavy rain, a normal car would have stalled long ago, but our vehicle was still running at about 30 kilometers an hour. Even a Range Rover would have a hard time keeping up. Her mood had visibly improved after reuniting with her family. I smiled and said that since it was raining, there was no need to rush. It was getting dark anyway, so we might as well rest for the night. We still had the hot pot seasoning from last time. We'd make another pot of hot pot, open a few cans of beer, and consider it a celebration of Yusin reuniting with her family. Yusin happily thanked me, feeling in her heart that meeting me was truly a stroke of luck. Looking out the window, the freezing winter rain fell endlessly. I couldn't help but think how harsh it would be if the rain fell directly on someone. In the apocalypse, there was no air conditioning, no heating. Winter was a true test. Who knew how many survivors out there were shivering in the night rain, hungry and cold, unable to sleep? Meanwhile, we were in a warm mobile base, with soft beds, hot pot, and beer. If people heard about this life, many would surely envy it. Yusin suddenly mentioned that her grandfather had been studying Luoluo for the past 2 days. She had told him about Luoluo earlier, which amazed him. He even said this mutant beast had completely shattered their previous understanding. Hearing that, I could only shake my head. Just mentioning Luoluo made me annoyed. That was a mutant mother's egg, yet that chubby little thing ate it all. I was sure that with Lala's intelligence, it knew perfectly well what could be eaten and what couldn't. Yet it still deliberately sneaked a bite when I wasn't looking. It was outrageous. I said in annoyance that the little beast had been sleeping forever, who knows for how long. Aside from acting pitiful, rolling around, and using its puppy dog eyes to trick people, it hadn't done a single useful thing. Right then, I heard Zhu Ying's voice calling out from the bedroom, shouting that Luoluo just moved. and it seemed Elder Sue had woken it up. It was about time to rest anyway, so Zero found a suitable spot and stopped the vehicle. Everyone on the bus gathered in the cabin, which was also where Luo was kept. I saw Su Tong and Su Guangkai looking incredibly excited, which I could completely understand. For scientists, even in the apocalypse, just a new discovery was enough to thrill them. Elder Su, what's going on? Why did Luo wake up? I asked. It's like this. Su Guangkai took a sip of water, continuing excitedly. He said this little creature was absolutely not simple. Its intelligence was the highest among any animal he had ever seen. He had previously seen dogs that could understand over 100 words, chimpanzees communicating with humans using visual language, and even crows that knew how to use cars to crack walnuts. But all those species, compared to this little creature, fell far short. As he spoke, he stroked Luo, while the little beast lowered its head, putting on an incredibly pitiful look. He continued to ramble on about animal intelligence, mentioning all sorts of foreign studies and papers. I had to cough a few times to interrupt him. He was clearly extremely fascinated by Luo's intelligence, but to me, that intelligence was useless, aside from acting cute and tricking soft-hearted girls. What I cared more about was how exactly Elder Sue had woken it up, and more importantly, whether it had evolved anything. It had eaten a mutant mother's egg. There had to be at least some reaction. Sorry, little Jiang. I got a bit too excited and rambled on. Su Guangkai laughed out loud, then finally got to the point. He said that after hearing Yusin talk about Luo, he was incredibly curious, so he used the few tools on hand to measure its physiological indicators. The results showed that Luo's sympathetic nervous system was extremely active. Normally, during a coma, the sympathetic nervous system barely reacts, but this little beast was different. From there, he tried a few stimulation methods, like the pupillary reflex, and based on its involuntary reactions, he realized Luo was actually faking its coma. Once he confirmed this, things became much simpler. He heard Yusin say Luo liked roasted meat, so he deliberately placed a few pre-cut pieces of roasted meat next to it and walked out. When he returned, at first glance, the meat seemed untouched, and he even thought he had guessed wrong. But looking closely, he discovered quite a bit of meat had been eaten. The little beast had just deliberately arranged the rest to look natural. He was almost fooled. Knowing Luo could communicate on a basic level, Su Guangkai immediately exposed it. At first, it continued to fake its coma, but when he threatened that if it didn't wake up, he'd tell me to roast it and eat it. The little beast was so scared it jumped up instantly. Hearing this, I was completely dumbfounded. Faking a coma? This little beast had truly become a demon. I instantly understood. It stole the mutant mother's egg, knew it messed up, and was afraid I'd beat it. So even though it had woken up long ago, it deliberately pretended to sleep. It clearly even understood my previous threat to roast it. No wonder I noticed some roasted meat missing yesterday. I thought someone sneaked a bite, but it turns out it was you. Zhuiying burst out laughing, happily hugging Luo without any blame, her eyes full of affection. Really, you were awake but pretending to sleep. You must have been starving. Yusin also couldn't resist Luo's cuteness. Luo seemed to have found a safe haven, constantly nuzzling into Zhuiying and Yusin's arms. While snuggling close, it sneaked fearful glances at me, as if worried I'd actually take it to be roasted. Watching it act pitiful and easily escape punishment, I felt like 1,000 alpacas were stampeding through my heart. It was outrageous. It stole a mutant mother's egg, yet ended up getting off so lightly. Little brat, stop pretending. Get over here. I didn't bother being polite, directly pulling Luo out of Zhuiying's hands. Luo drooped its ears, its big round eyes welling with tears, looking at me incredibly pitifully. Don't try that trick on me. I'm not falling for it. Hey, you little thief. You ate the mutant mother's egg. Did you evolve any abilities? Hurry up and show me. I said bluntly that an investment requires a return. Such a precious mutant egg, since it ate it, it had to show some results. Even if you throw gold into a river, you at least hear a splash. It couldn't just eat it and act like nothing happened. Seeing Luo just blink its eyes with no reaction, I grew even more dissatisfied. I asked again, my voice displeased, if it really hadn't evolved at all after eating it. Brother, don't be so mean. You're scaring Luo. Zhu Ying hurriedly pulled Luo Luo from my hands, clearly protecting it. I was truly helpless. Luo Luo was clearly relying on its protectors. Whether it was Zhu Ying, Yusin, or even Rin Xiu, at this point, they had all lost their principles and reason. Haha, little Jiang, don't rush. We're also very curious about this. Su Guangkai laughed, his eyes shining brightly as he looked at Luo Luo. This little creature truly got more interesting the more you looked at it. Realizing all eyes were on it, Luo Luo fearfully shrank deeper into Jiang Zhuing's arms. I glared at it and snorted coldly, warning, just you wait. You'd better not let me find out you're just a freeloader. It was unclear if the little beast took it to heart. Its big ears just twitched slightly, as if my words were nothing but a passing breeze. Right then, a dull thud echoed from the wasteland by the road, sounding like thunder amidst the rain, but everyone knew for sure it wasn't thunder. The waist-high weeds were torn apart, and the ground trembled slightly. A mutant beast. On this desolate road, running into a mutant beast was only a matter of time. I was even a bit surprised it took this long to encounter one. With a roar, a mutant cow charged out from the grass, its body as big as a small car. Its skin was as rough and tough as stone, its horns ferocious, hot breath snorting from its nose, and its bloodshot eyes staring intently at the minibus. On the bus, Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan's eyes instantly lit up when they saw it, and they hurriedly grabbed their guns. Beef. Mutant beast meat was already delicious, but cow, sheep, or pig was even easier to eat, as they were all familiar dishes before the apocalypse. Luo Luo, who had been hiding in Jiang Zhuing's arms, also perked its ears up, its eyes wide, practically drooling. The mutant cow stood there aggressively, seemingly sensing danger as well, so it hesitated to charge. The minibus in front of it looked more like a giant steel monster than a fragile vehicle. Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan were ready, and Zero also drew her knife, pressing close to the window. Hold on, I spoke up to stop them. Don't waste bullets. I turned to look at Luo Luo and said bluntly, I recall you're a mutant beast too. Dealing with a low-level mutant beast like this shouldn't be beyond your capabilities. The cow in front of us was only a level 1 mutant beast. As for Luo Luo, though its level was unclear, it ate mutant beast meat every day and had even eaten a mutant mother's egg. Even if it couldn't win, it should at least be able to hold its own. Thinking this, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed Luo Luo and tossed it straight out the window. The mutant cow stood over 10 meters away from the vehicle, snorting heavily, one hoof pawing the ground. From inside the bus, a fur ball was thrown out, accompanied by my shout, Go, Luo Luo! Squeak. As soon as it hit the ground and saw the mutant cow right in front of it, Luo's fur stood on end in fear. It dared to charge into a mutant worm nest to steal an egg, but facing a mutant beast head-on, it was pitifully cowardly. Normally, when it encountered zombies, it only knew how to hide, never having any intention to fight. This time, being thrown out unexpectedly by me, it took one look at the cow and turned to run. So useless. I gritted my teeth in anger. This little beast really only knew how to eat. The mutant cow roared furiously, its 4 hooves stomping the ground as it charged madly, aiming straight for Luo, its sharp horns pointed at its tiny body. This ramming force was enough to crush an entire car. Luo panicked, unable to dodge in time, just standing there waiting for death to strike. I sighed inwardly and immediately raised my gun, aiming at the cow. No matter how useless Luo was, it had eaten who knows how much of my stuff. I couldn't let it die in vain like this. But right then, Luo's body suddenly inflated like a balloon, transforming from a small fur ball into a giant, round mass. It already looked like a bear cub or a fat cat, but now, puffed up, it was both hilarious and adorable, its 4 short legs kicking wildly in the air. Its inflated body blocked my line of sight, and in that exact moment, the mutant cow slammed into Luo. Thud! A strange, muffled sound echoed. There was no scene of blood and flesh flying. Luo was sent flying toward the minibus, crashing hard against the window glass with a heavy thud. Immediately after, its body rapidly deflated, and quick as lightning, it squeezed through the gap in the window. Without even looking back, it dove straight into the arms of Rin Xiu, who was closest. I stood there stunned. Even Jiang Zhuiying and Rin Xiu, who doted on Luo Luo the most, couldn't hide their shock. That ramming attack looked so painful, yet Luo Luo wasn't hurt at all. I pulled the trigger. The mutant cow collapsed, its massive body crashing to the ground just a few meters from the vehicle, making the entire bus shake. Zhang, go deal with it. I put down my sniper rifle, walked over to Rin Xiu, grabbed Luo Luo by the arm, and lifted it up. Clearly, after what just happened, it had left me with some psychological trauma. Being lifted up, it immediately drooped its ears, its eyes full of grievance. I stared at it curiously. Su Guangkai and Su Tong also gathered around to look, with Su Guangkai even taking out his reading glasses to observe it very closely. On the outside, Luo Luo looked no different than before, but everyone had clearly seen it inflate just now. I tried pulling its arm, feeling that although its fur was very soft, its limbs could deform quite flexibly. Thinking for a moment, I decided to pull harder. Brother Jiang, what are you doing? Even Rin Xiu grew anxious, reflexively wanting to protect the little creature. But in my hands, Loloa's arms continued to stretch out, stretching so long that my own arms could barely reach any further. Looking at those unbelievably long arms, everyone fell silent. Just as I turned around, Loloa's ear accidentally brushed against the vehicle's door handle. Clink! A sound rang out, exactly like metal colliding. Startled, I immediately bent down to check. Although the door handle wasn't coated in a special alloy, its hardness was already very high. Yet now, a clear dent had appeared on its surface. Just from a light brush? I didn't even have time to feel sorry for it. Fixing a door handle was simple anyway and wouldn't cost much material. Looking at Luo Luo in my hands, I got the idea to test it further. I smacked it against the door handle 2 more times. As a result, the door handle dented even deeper, looking like it was about to snap off. At first, everyone felt my actions were akin to animal abuse, but looking at the state of the door handle, everyone understood. A mutant beast was still a mutant beast, and Luo Luo was absolutely not an ordinary one. Incredible, truly miraculous. Su Guangkai looked at Luo Luo with eyes full of admiration. After getting my permission, he cut a strand of its fur to examine, then said, "Its fur is very soft now, but its toughness is extremely high." The more he spoke, the more excited he got. It can inflate to withstand the ramming of a mutant cow, and its limbs can stretch this much. Clearly, its body has the ability to change shape very flexibly. From what I see, it's not useless at all. In fact, its abilities are extremely special. A highly intelligent mutant beast displaying such clear post-evolutionary power made it impossible for Su Guangkai to hide his amazement. For scientists like them, it was very rare to have the chance to observe a live mutant beast. Other beasts were hard to keep even when locked in specially made iron cages, yet Luo Luo obediently let people squeeze and pull it. The funny thing was, it really could be squeezed and pulled at will. Finding it amusing, I tried pulling Luo Luo a few more times. Sure enough, its body could be flattened as thin as a sheet of paper, its facial features imprinted right on the surface, while its eyes still darted back and forth. Not bad, I laughed. At least you didn't waste my food. Luo Luo really is special. Perhaps it also realized I no longer had any intention of roasting it. Its eyes instantly brightened, its tail wagged, and it rubbed its head against my palm to curry favor. All right, stop acting. I shoved it back to Jiang Zhuiying. Rin Xiu and Li Yusin immediately crowded around, completely unable to resist its cuteness. I returned to the driver's cabin. Zero started the minibus, continuing to drive along the bumpy dirt road. Not long after, I saw a highway sign up ahead. Among a series of locations, a name both familiar and distant struck my eyes. Jiangbei City. Jiangbei was right in front of us. Back then, I was the one who drove this minibus off the highway, separating from the convoy of refugees. And now, there wasn't a single living soul on this road. The vehicle continued forward. Piles of abandoned cars and traces of old battles gradually appeared. I remembered very clearly. At that time, the military ordered everyone to abandon their cars and retreat on foot. During that process, countless dangers must have occurred, and I feared hardly anyone from the military survived either. Soon, the vehicle approached the toll booth entering Jiangbei. From a distance, I saw military vehicles blocking the way, rusted and peeling paint after so much time. No human corpses were visible, but the dark brown bloodstains on the cabins were still enough to make one shudder. On the toll booth, the words, "Welcome to Jiangbei City," had faded, completely losing their former brilliance. We had arrived at Jiangbei. Not only Jiang Zhuiying, but Li Yusin also revealed a look of nostalgia. I looked toward the distant city. Zhuiying and I had relied on each other, living in a small corner of this city for over 10 years. "We're not going into Jiangbei, just bypassing it," I said. "It's probably full of zombies inside." Jiangbei is completely different now. The once bustling city was now occupied by zombies, streets filled with abandoned shops, and overgrown with weeds. Hordes of zombies staggered down the streets with bloodshot eyes and torn clothes, carrying a heavy sense of danger. I didn't want to look back at a Jiangbei like that. It was better to keep the beautiful memories than face the cruel reality. But compared to when I hastily fled back then, I now had enough strength. No matter how close I was to the city, I didn't feel tense. Ordinary zombies couldn't pose a threat to the minibus, much less hurt anyone on board. "Yeah, it's best not to go in," Li Yusin nodded, sitting down next to her mother, Su Tong, and gently holding her hand, her face full of emotion. Jiang Zhuiying quickly relaxed and started telling Zero and Ren Shiyu about the time she lived with me in the past. Ren Shiyu listened very attentively, nodding occasionally. Zero stood to the side with her arms crossed, silent. "So you two slept in bunk beds, in the same room?" Zero suddenly asked. Jiang Zhuiying blinked, then nodded very naturally. "That's right." Zero just gave an and didn't say anything else. Zhuiying was a bit confused. "That's all you're asking?" She laughed it off. "It's no big deal. Aren't you all sleeping in bunk beds with my brother right now anyway?" "Not just bunk beds, but the same bed too." No one said a word. Ren Shiyu kept a calm expression, but her ears turned slightly red. Li Yusin instantly blushed bright red, sneaking a glance at her mother, Su Tong, then feeling so embarrassed she didn't dare lift her head. I could only glare at Jiang Zhuiying, completely clueless as to what she was saying, then awkwardly explained. "The bus is just too small." The vehicle really was too small. Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan had to squeeze into the driver's cabin to sleep. Su Guangkai laid out a soft mattress in there, so there was almost no space left. The rest of us could only sleep in the cramped bedroom. No matter how we arranged it, someone had to sleep on the floor with me. Zhuiying was my sister, so sleeping next to me was nothing, but on the other side, everyone took turns. This situation already made me feel very awkward, but everyone tacitly understood and didn't bring it up. Now that Zhuiying had blurted it out, the atmosphere instantly became embarrassing. I have to upgrade. I definitely have to upgrade the mobile base quickly. I thought to myself, wondering what a level 2 base would be like. Would sleeping be more comfortable? "Actually, it's fine," Ren Shiyu spoke up. "It's the apocalypse now. Having a safe and warm place to sleep is already incredibly lucky. Don't mind these little things." Saying that, she glanced at me. In her cold gray eyes, I saw a hint of a smile flash by. Seeing my awkwardness, Ren Shiyu slightly lowered her head, pursed her lips, and gave a very faint smile. The minibus continued along the village road, bypassing the central area of Jiangbei City. There were sections of the road that no longer existed, so the vehicle just plowed through, forging its own path. But right then, a few barricades made of tree trunks and barbed wire suddenly appeared ahead. For this minibus, that kind of barricade was nothing, but just as I was about to drive straight through, Ren Shiyu suddenly said, "There are people here." I looked in the direction she pointed. With my current eyesight, I could vaguely see a few people hiding in a nearby rural house, peeking out through the window. So there were still survivors. I was a bit surprised. I stopped the vehicle, looked at the people who thought they were hiding so well, but had actually been exposed long ago, and honked the horn twice. Honk! Honk! The survivors in the house jumped in panic. The distance was quite far, and there were weeds blocking the view and a window separating them. Yet the people in the vehicle still spotted them. A man whispered, "Could they just be honking randomly?" But before he could finish, a burly man glared at him. "Are you an idiot? Unless they have a death wish, who would make such a loud noise?" Zombies and mutant beasts are both highly sensitive to sound. The man frowned at the minibus. Even if they had spotted them, this action was too reckless. Who knew what kind of people were on that bus? On the bus, I was losing patience and honked twice more. The blaring horn made the people in the house even more irritated and anxious. The burly man named Ali lost his temper. Damn it, don't they know how to keep quiet? What if they attract mutant beasts or zombies? Another person asked cautiously, maybe they just want to pass through? Ali glared at him, then decided, let's go out. If we don't go out, they'll probably keep honking. But we can't all go. Leave a few people inside. Don't let them know how many of us there are. Ali grabbed a gun and stepped outside, accompanied by two others. The gun he used was a standard Type 95, scavenged near the toll booth earlier. Thanks to these weapons, their group had managed to survive here. Just as Ali stepped out the door, he heard another honk. Damn it, he was furious, muttering curses. Can you stop honking? If a beast charges out, we're all dead. Ali shouted loudly. Who are you people? This is our base. Zhang Hai leaned halfway out the window and yelled back. Can you guys open the barricade? Seeing Zhang Hai hanging out the window, Ali instantly grew wary, a thought flashing through his mind. Is this guy a mutant? Where are you from? Planning to enter our base? Fine, but I have to ask the manager first. Ali replied, his tone cautious. Other survivor groups had sought them out before. Encountering a group with mutants like this, the base probably wouldn't refuse them. Before Ali could finish, Zhang Hai cut him off, his voice rough. Ask for permission for what? Did you guys build this road or something? Huh. Ali was momentarily stunned by that response. Zhang Hai had lost his patience and roared. We just want to pass through. Your barricade is blocking the road. Ali was surprised. You guys are just passing through? But our base is up ahead. We can't just let strangers pass through as they please. There are women and children inside. We have to ensure their safety. He tried to explain. Zhang Hai grew annoyed. So troublesome. Sitting in the vehicle, I frowned. If it were just these few people, I could easily drive right through, but there was a survivor base ahead. I didn't want to handle this too harshly. Zhang Hai. I called him back, then stepped off the bus. Ali saw a young man in his 20s step out of the minibus. Compared to Zhang Hai, this guy looked easier to talk to. The guy who just sneaked out the back door of that house wanted to get people, right? How long until we hear back? I asked bluntly. Ali's expression instantly changed. He didn't understand how I knew his plan, feeling as if his every move had been seen through. Soon. We'll hear back soon. Ali replied, trying to hide his nervousness. He completely abandoned any thought of acting rashly, feeling uneasy even with a gun in his hands, despite the standard Type 95 giving him quite a sense of intimidation. Then we'll wait, I said. I can spare a little time. Arriving in Jiangning a bit early or late makes no difference. All their sneaky little movements were within the range of Ren Shiyu's mental perception. She had even expanded her scan, quickly pinpointing the location of the survivor base about a kilometer away, roughly the size of a small village. Not long after, a few motorcycles and a pickup truck sped over. The pickup truck had been modified, with a thick steel frame in the back and the front covered in iron and mesh, looking very crude. Several people stood in the steel frame, and each motorcycle carried 2 people. The engines roared as they stopped in front of the barricade. What's going on? The pickup's door opened, and a man in a leather jacket stepped out, frowning at the minibus, then looking at me with suspicion. Boss Lin Wei, they say they just want to pass through, Ali hurriedly reported. I observed this man named Lin. He was a mutant, and his strength wasn't bad. It didn't matter if he was the boss of the base or not. As long as he was someone with the authority to make decisions, that was enough. Lin Wei glanced at me, then looked at the minibus, suddenly furrowing his brows. There were multiple mutant energy fluctuations inside the vehicle. Initially, he had planned to refuse, but now he didn't dare make a hasty decision. If you pass through here, it'll cause trouble for us. We need some compensation. Lin Wei said after some consideration. What do you want? I asked casually. If he demanded too much, I wouldn't mind dealing with him cleanly. Lin Wei thought for a moment, then said, 20 caddies of rice. Seeing my silence, he grew displeased and lowered it himself. Then 15 caddies. No less. I chuckled. I wasn't short on rice in the vehicle. In fact, we didn't even need to eat it. But looking at their condition, food must be very scarce. 15 caddies of rice meant nothing to me. I nodded. Open the barricade. We'll hand over the rice once we're through. Ollie, take some men and dismantle the barricade, Lin Wei ordered. Hearing him call those broken-down fences a defense line, I unconsciously paused. This was called a defense? The barricade didn't have an opening, so they had to dismantle it section by section and then put it back together. That was exactly why I agreed to give them rice. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given them a single grain. After 7 or 8 minutes, the minibus finally passed through. Up close, Lin Wei felt even more that this vehicle was highly unusual. The high-tech metal coating was completely unlike a normal minibus, but the pitch-black windows prevented him from seeing inside. Drive behind us, Lin Wei shouted. Letting this group of mutants pass by the base, he absolutely had to keep an eye on them. Not long after, a small village appeared ahead. Calling it a village was a stretch. In reality, there were only a few two-story houses, while the rest were a chaotic mess of makeshift tents. Outside the village, there was a concrete brick wall surrounding it, with watchtowers built on top and gun muzzles pointing outward. This was clearly a place that had been expanded and built after the apocalypse. The roads inside were almost entirely occupied, so we had to detour through a field to continue. Seeing Lin Wei leading people out, followed by a strange minibus, many villagers immediately stopped what they were doing and turned to look. I looked around. The survivors here were truly destitute, wearing thin clothes. They weren't warm enough, and while they worked, there were people standing guard, barking orders and bullying them, which was clearly a common occurrence. Although I found it despicable, I didn't care much, because in this apocalypse, it was already incredibly hard for ordinary people to survive. Living in misery at least meant they still had a chance to exist. Even if they got rid of their oppressors, they would only end up depending on someone else anyway. This is our base. You guys detour around it, and I'll lead the way out, Lin Wei stopped and said. I rolled down the window and took out a bag of rice. You kept your word. Here's your share. The passage had gone smoothly, and Lin Wei had no intention of playing tricks. I was even less worried. If a conflict really broke out, I definitely wouldn't be the one suffering. Lin Wei waved his hand, and someone immediately stepped forward to take the bag of rice. Just as I was about to roll the window back up, I heard a hesitant voice call out, Jiang Lushi. Then the voice instantly rose in excitement. Jiang Lushi, it really is you. I looked in the direction of the voice and saw a person with disheveled hair and a dirt-streaked face running over, looking incredibly thrilled. The person had dark, tan skin and hair as tangled as unkempt weeds. I stared for a long time, but still couldn't recognize him. It's me, the person said, brushing his hair aside and vigorously wiping his face a few times. Look closely. Oh, Wang Hui. I was a bit surprised. I didn't expect to run into an acquaintance here. Wang Hui was my college classmate. When the outbreak happened, he must have still been at school. You didn't evacuate to the Zhonghai safe zone? I asked. When I was at the Zhonghai safe zone, I had run into a few high school classmates, but no college ones. With tens of thousands of people there, not running into them was perfectly normal. A safe zone? Wang Kuei shook his head. Back then, everyone was just running for their lives. We had to hide in a place without seeing the sun for a dozen days. Then we met other survivors and escaped the Jiangbei area together. Recalling the past, his face turned ugly. Clearly, the memories weren't pleasant. Sigh, just surviving is lucky enough. We ate whatever we could find. We had to taste all the suffering we'd never experienced before. He looked at me. My clothes were clean, showing no signs of starvation. His eyes couldn't hide his jealousy, especially since I had just handed over a whole bag of rice. Looks like you're living really well. Oh right, Luo Ming is here too, Wang Kuei said. Luo Ming is here? I was a bit surprised. Luo Ming was my roommate. Right before the apocalypse broke out, I had called him to borrow money to rent the minibus. Even though Luo Ming didn't have money at the time, I still told him to stay put in the dorm and not go out. Let me go get Luo Ming, Wang Kuei said. I nodded and turned to Lin Wei. I have a few old friends in this base. Let me see them for a bit. Since I had already handed over the rice, Lin Wei wasn't too guarded anymore. He just warned, no problem, but don't wander around. I glanced around. This place looked like a rundown village. You could see everything at a glance. What was there to wander around for? Soon, Wang Kuei returned. He didn't just bring Luo Ming, but a few others as well. I was a little surprised. I didn't know many people in college, and I didn't recognize most of these faces. But Li Yuhan, who had just looked out the window, recognized them. Lu Shanshan, and Xinjing too. It turned out they were all from Jiangbei University. Jiang Lushi, it really is you. Luo Ming shouted joyfully before he even got close. Thank God for you. If you hadn't told me to stay in the dorm, I'd be dead for sure. When the apocalypse broke out, Luo Ming was indeed playing games in his room. He immediately barricaded the door, hid for days, and ate whatever he could find. Later, he found other survivors in the school, and they escaped together, eventually making it to this base. According to him, there were other survivor bases in Jiangbei. Maybe some of their classmates were there too. But in the apocalypse, communication and travel were too difficult. No one had the energy to care about others. Luo Ming had thought about me, wondering if I was dead or alive. He never expected to run into me today. It really was fate. He was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes. Meeting an old acquaintance after such a long time was an indescribable feeling. It easily made people reminisce about their peaceful lives before. The others weren't very close to me, but among them, the girl named Lu Shanshan looked at me with very complicated eyes. She guessed that I didn't remember her anymore. In the past, a friend had jokingly tried to set me up with her, but she had shown clear disdain and disgust. After that, every time she saw me, she was cold and didn't even bother to look my way. Actually, I never cared about that. The one who wanted to set us up was my friend, not me, and I hadn't paid any attention to her attitude afterward either. Meeting old friends, especially Luo Ming, still made me feel a bit emotional. Luo Ming wasn't a bad guy. We had a decent relationship back then. He just didn't have the money to lend me at the time. Let's chat for a bit. Get on the minibus. I felt it was inconvenient to stand and talk like this, so I told Ing to open the door. Sure. Luo Ming immediately stepped forward, but just as he was about to set foot inside, his body suddenly stiffened. The interior of this minibus was way too luxurious. At first, he thought it was just a normal bus, but a sofa, carpets, a bed, and even a bathroom appeared right before his eyes. The furnishings were so good they made people dizzy. Not to mention, just a quick glance revealed so many beautiful girls. Each had her own unique charm and temperament, but all of them were stunning. They were completely incomparable to Lu Shanshan in their group. Not just Luo Ming, but Wang Kuei and the others behind him were also stunned. The moment the door opened, it completely overturned their perception. Even Lin Wei, who was smoking and looking over, froze, forgetting to exhale his smoke. Compared to this minibus, their survivor base was like a torn shack next to a luxury villa. Luo Ming stood frozen at the door for a moment, then pulled his foot back and smiled awkwardly. The interior is really nice. I think I'll pass. It's already crowded inside. Actually, he looked at his dirty shoes and dust-covered clothes, feeling that getting on would only make him look out of place. Seeing that he didn't want to get on, I stepped out, with Li Yuhan following behind. Lu Shanshan had seen Li Yuhan earlier, but couldn't believe it. It wasn't until she stood right in front of her that she finally confirmed it. Shanshan, and Xinjing too. I didn't expect to run into you guys here. Li Yuhan said happily. In this apocalypse, every time you met an old acquaintance, it was a rare stroke of luck. Yuhan. Lu Shanshan stared at her blankly. I didn't expect it either. Li Yuhan looked radiant and energetic, her temperament even more refined. When she stepped off the bus, the eyes of everyone in the base were glued to her. Even Lin Wei was no exception. Compared to her, Lu Shanshan felt incredibly inferior. Why are you with Jiang Lushi? She asked, glancing at me. Li Yuhan smiled. It's a long story. Let's talk about it later. Brother Jiang, do you know Shanshan and Xinjing? I looked at them and nodded in greeting. Not really. They're probably just your schoolmates. That reaction made Lu Shanshan feel a sense of loss. I really didn't remember her anymore. Moreover, the intimate way Li Yuhan addressed me made her mind run wild. In the past, she hadn't given me the time of day because I was an orphan who had to take care of my younger sister. Being with me would be like asking for hardship. She never expected that in the apocalypse, Li Yuhan would be traveling with me, and her current life was clearly very good. Lu Shanshan understood that in this world, many girls without combat power could only become playthings for the strong. If they cleverly attached themselves to a strong enough man, their lives could be better. It was sad, but it was the natural order of things. The weak had to rely on the strong to survive. She even saw it as a way to change her fate. But in this base, she had no chance. The paranormals just played around casually. No one truly cared. Looking at the difference between herself and Li Yuhan, she only felt suffocated. What about you? How's life here? I asked Luo Ming. Just looking at him, I could guess he wasn't having an easy time. It's all right. We eat whatever we can get, have a place to shelter from the rain and sun, and do a little work every day. Just treat it as exercise. Luo Ming laughed, then asked curiously, are you a paranormal? I just smiled. You could say that. Luo Ming nodded, his voice dropping. Back then, one of our friends became a paranormal too. We only survived because of him. It's a pity he died. If that friend were still alive, their lives here wouldn't be so miserable, because he was someone who always cared for and looked after everyone. Right at that moment, a bell rang from the survivor base. I saw the surrounding survivors immediately drop their work and quickly head in the same direction. Luo Ming also turned his head, then said to me, Jiang Lushi, wait a sec. They're handing out food. I have to go get my share. If I'm late, there won't be any left. With that, he hurriedly ran off. Watching this scene, I couldn't help but chuckle. In the past, we used to sprint to the cafeteria just like that. Back then, Luo Ming was a chubby guy who would be out of breath before he even ran far. Before long, Luo Ming returned with a lunchbox in hand. Inside the box were only a few pieces of meat, and the vegetables were pitifully scarce, withered like discarded leaves. In the apocalypse, even plants had mutated. Green vegetables became a luxury, and these looked like nothing more than trash. But Luo Ming didn't mind. He held the lunchbox, ready to sit down and continue chatting with me. Wang Kuei had told him that based on how I spoke to Lin Wei, we would probably be leaving soon. Once we left, there might never be another chance to meet. Because of that, Luo Ming wanted to take the opportunity to talk to me more, feeling like he was back in the days before the outbreak. Hey, where are you guys heading? Luo Ming asked while eating. I looked at the lunchbox in his hand and frowned. Is this all you're eating? Luo Ming laughed heartily. It's the apocalypse. I'm just glad to have something to eat. You know me. I can survive on anything. I chuckled. Luo Ming was still the same. We're planning to go to Jiangning. Jiangning? Luo Ming paused. What for? Just some business. I didn't elaborate. Luo Ming nodded, then continued, speaking of Jiangning, I've heard a few things. There was a paranormal in this base who led some people to escape from Jiangning. He mentioned the situation over there. He spoke while eating faster, afraid of making me wait. He ate so hastily he almost choked. It was rare to run into me again, and Luo Ming was just happy he could help out a bit. I looked at him and suddenly snatched the lunchbox from his hands. Stop eating that. Since we've reunited, let me treat you to a meal. We're having barbecue today. My team didn't have fixed meal times anyway. We ate whenever we wanted, so cooking now wasn't a problem. Since Luo Ming didn't want to get on the bus, eating outside was fine too. Hearing my words, Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan quickly brought out the grill. They fetched the mutant beef we hunted today from the fridge, along with plenty of spices and fresh vegetables. Lin Wei had just started to calm down after seeing the minibus and the girls, but now his eyes widened again. Mutant meat and fresh vegetables. He cursed his own stupidity, realizing he had completely underestimated our group, even voluntarily lowering the toll from 20 pounds of rice to 15. Compared to all this, that rice was nothing. Luo Ming stood there dumbfounded, while Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan had already started the fire and set up the grill. Their movements were as skilled as professional barbecue vendors, sprinkling spices and flipping the meat rhythmically. The savory aroma quickly spread. Wang Kuei, Chen Jing, and the others standing nearby couldn't stop swallowing their saliva. Even Lu Shanshan found the lunchbox in her hands tasteless, her eyes glued to the grilled meat, unable to hold back her drool. Here, Luo Ming, eat up. I handed him a skewer. Luo Ming hesitated for a moment before taking it, smiling in touched disbelief. Old friends really are different. So generous. Ignoring the heat, he took a bite and almost bit his tongue. The mutant meat was incredibly delicious. He had never eaten anything like it before. Watching him eat, even Lin Wei couldn't help but feel secretly jealous. He never thought the day would come when a paranormal like him would envy an ordinary person. Luo Ming ate so much he didn't even have time to talk, but but he was just an ordinary person after all, so he got full pretty quickly. This barbecue was worlds apart from the boxed lunches he used to eat. He also understood that he only got this meal because he ran into me. Afterward, he'd still have to fend for himself. Wang Kuei and Lu Shanshan stood nearby, watching greedily. Right then, Luo Ming stopped, turned to me, and smiled, asking a silent question. I nodded immediately. Let them have some. Thank you, Jiang Lushi. No, I should call you Brother Jiang. Wang Kuei's face lit up with joy, repeatedly calling me that to cozy up. Chen Jing also thanked me, carefully taking a skewer and eating it slowly. Lu Shanshan hesitated for a moment, wanting to refuse, but ultimately couldn't resist the smell of the barbecue. After taking a skewer, she immediately devoured it. It was just too fragrant. She couldn't help but think to herself, did Jiang Lushi and Li Yuhan eat things like this every single day? After Luo Ming finished sharing his portion of meat with everyone, he stopped eating, wiped his hands clean, and turned to me. Jiang Lushi, what are you going to Jiangning for? And where did you guys just come from? From Haiyuan, I replied. Seeing Luo Ming's confused expression, I added, Sanxiang Province. Oh wow? Luo Ming nodded. I smiled. If he knew we had practically circled the entire Jiangnan region, his reaction would be even bigger. That paranormal you mentioned, what does he know about Jiangning? I asked. The information Su Guangqi and Su Tong heard over the radio about the Jiangning safe zone was still too little. Jiangning right now, Luo Ming spoke slowly. I heard the safe zone there is very strict. Not just anyone can get in. The outside is chaotic, with ordinary people and paranormals living mixed together. The safe zone is still the safe zone, but the survivor area is completely different. Over there, you can buy whatever you want, and you can find buyers for whatever you want to sell. There are even quite a few powerful paranormals in Jiangbei who frequently go there to trade. But if you're not strong enough, it's very easy to get swallowed up by others. Luo Ming had heard all this directly from a paranormal, so the reliability wasn't low, which was why he dared to say it. I just nodded, not showing any emotion. I wasn't afraid of being swallowed up, but Jiangning was clearly more complicated than I thought. The military zone there seemed very closed off. How about I call that guy over so you can ask him directly? Luo Ming suggested. Sure, I nodded. Luo Ming went to get him. I was about to tell Lin Wei that we'd be staying a bit longer, but when I turned around, I saw he had already left, leaving only his subordinates to watch us from a distance. Shiyu, be careful, I reminded her. Ran Shiyu nodded. In someone else's base, I wasn't overly tense, but I didn't let my guard down either. Even with Wang Kuei, despite being an old classmate, after all this time in the apocalypse, I couldn't easily trust him. It was like that before, and it was even more so now. Among the people here, Luo Ming was the only one I truly understood. Lu Shanshan glanced at me, then pulled Wang Kuei and Chen Jing away. Let's go too. In the base, men and women lived separately in large communal rooms. Those with some status lived in smaller rooms, while paranormals got single rooms, even hotel-style ones, not temporary shelters. The person Luo Ming wanted to find was in a communal room. He was a minor supervisor whom Luo Ming normally had no chance to interact with. Everything he knew was just overheard. This time, he had to bow his head and beg. That supervisor was a bald guy, currently sitting and eating in the room. On the table were a few stir-fried dishes, with significantly more meat than an ordinary person's portion. Seeing Luo Ming walk in, the people in the room all frowned. What do you want? The bald guy asked. Luo Ming smiled ingratiatingly and carefully explained his purpose. As long as you agree, Brother Cheng, you can order me to do anything from now on. Brother Cheng sneered. Order you? What can you even do? Wash my clothes? I can wash clothes, and I can shine shoes too. Luo Ming kept smiling. He didn't know what I was going to Jiangning for, but he understood one thing. Knowing a bit more was always safer. He heard that even Brother Cheng's boss had fled from Jiangning back to Jiangbei, which was enough to show that place was a dragon's den. Originally, Luo Ming hadn't planned on seeking out Brother Cheng, but I had treated him to a meal. To him, that was a favor. Working for anyone was still working, so working for Brother Cheng was the same. At least you know your place. Brother Cheng stood up, walked over, and slapped Luo Ming hard across the face. The sound of the slap was loud and clear. Luo Ming felt the pain but didn't dare react. only saying weakly, "We're classmates, after all." "Classmates my ass." Brother Ching cut him off. "Look at yourself. Are you worthy of washing my clothes? Shining my shoes? You're only fit to lick the bottom of my shoes. And what the hell is your classmate? You dare ask me to tell him stories about Jiangning?" Spit flew all over Luo Ming's face. He took a shallow breath. As a supervisor, Brother Cheng often yelled at them. There were times Luo Ming wanted to scream that he'd had enough, but the harsh reality forced him to bow his head. It was the same this time. Emotions surged, but the disparity in status and power meant he could only swallow his bitterness. Right at that moment, Lin Wei walked in through the door and said bluntly, "Why aren't you going? Go, and call Peng Yi over while you're at it. Peng Yi is your boss, isn't he? Doesn't he know Jiangning better? I heard he used to have quite a reputation there." Brother Chung froze for a moment, then immediately nodded. Seeing Brother Chung grab his coat and get up to find Peng Yi, Luo Ming turned to look at Lin Wei, a bad feeling rising in his chest. Though optimistic, he wasn't stupid. Why would Lin Wei personally step in for an ordinary person like him, and even bring Peng Yi along? As for me, Lin Wei didn't know me at all, and had even less reason to go to such lengths. "Wait, Brother Lin, you don't have to do this," Luo Ming hurriedly pleaded, his voice trembling. "Go call your classmate here." Lin Wei's voice was ice cold, without a hint of emotion. Luo Ming's heart tightened. He understood exactly what was happening. "Please don't, Brother Lin. If my friend did something wrong, I apologize on his behalf." Luo Ming said frantically, his heart sinking. Was this all because of my barbecue? If that was really the case, wasn't it all his fault? Luo Ming knew exactly how strong these people were. No matter how strong I was, I only had one vehicle and a few people, while here there were many paranormals and their subordinates, and they were even planning an ambush. "You don't want to go?" Lin Wei asked, his eyes cold. "Brother Lin." Luo Ming tried to beg, but the next second, Lin Wei slapped him, sending him flying. A slap from a paranormal made Luo Ming see stars. His face swelled up instantly, and his mouth filled with the taste of blood. At this moment, he saw a few more people standing outside the door. Wang Kuei, Chen Jing, and even Lu Shanshan were there. Actually, Lu Shanshan was the one who took the initiative to bring Wang Kuei and Chen Jing over. She could tell I wasn't completely heartless and still valued my friendship with Luo Ming. And since Luo Ming was a kind-hearted guy, Lu Shanshan planned to use sweet words to get him to put in a good word for them, so I would take them along. In this place, they couldn't hold their heads high, but if they followed me, things would be different. At the very least, they could live in a clean, luxurious bus. The difference was like heaven and hell. But Lu Shanshan never expected that when they arrived, they would witness this scene. Wang Kuei and Chen Jing both turned pale with fear, their bodies trembling. Even Lu Shanshan couldn't help but shiver. Seeing Lin Wei look their way, after a few rapid breaths, Lu Shanshan suddenly spoke up. "I can call Jiang Lushi here." I wasn't there, but if I had heard that sentence, I probably would have been a little taken aback too. "You can call him here?" Lin Wei frowned, speaking with suspicion. "You don't seem very close to him." "But I know his girlfriend," Lu Shanshan replied quickly. "I might not be able to trick Jiang Lushi, but I can lure his girlfriend out. I'll say I need her help with a private matter. She mentioned she's a doctor, so I'll just say it's a gynecological issue. Once I lure her out, all she has to do is scream. Do you think Jiang Lushi won't come? Then it'll all be over." Lin Wei pondered for a moment, his eyes gradually lighting up. He looked at Lu Shanshan with a hint of surprise. "You've got some brains. That works. Lu Shanshan, what are you doing?" Luo Ming glared at her angrily, still trying to stop her. Seeing this, Lin Wei looked impatient and immediately pulled out a broad-bladed knife, about a hand's length long. "Brother Lin." Lu Shanshan hesitated for a moment before saying, "I've already helped you, so don't kill him. I heard paranormals are very sensitive. If the smell of blood is discovered, it won't be good." "Are you crazy?" Wang Kuei and Chen Jing turned pale, asking tremblingly. "Didn't you say we were coming to ask Luo Ming for help so we could follow Jiang Lushi? Why did you agree to help Lin Wei harm him?" "There's no other way." Lu Shanshan had regained her composure, speaking evenly. "We heard everything. If we don't help, both we and Luo Ming will die. Besides, think about it carefully. Jiang Lushi never cared about us. He has absolutely no feelings for us. Following him doesn't guarantee we'll be treated well. It's very likely we'd be abandoned sooner or later. He can't guarantee us a good life either. It's better to stay in this base and find some status. Didn't you see Brother Cheng? He's just a supervisor, but he lives comfortably. Of course, Lu Shanshan's goals didn't stop there. No, I can't do it. Chen Jing shook her head repeatedly, terrified just thinking about it. You're so useless. Lu Shanshan shook her head and turned to Wang Kuei. What about you? Wang Kuei hesitated, looking at Lu Shanshan. He felt like she had turned into a completely different person. But perhaps this was her true self. Swallowing hard, he finally nodded. I'll go with you. He understood very well that even if he didn't go, Lu Shanshan would go herself. Once she succeeded and climbed to a higher position, would those who had defied her be able to live in peace? Then you go distract Jiang Lushi, and I'll go find Li Yuhan. Lu Shanshan nodded. On the way to the minibus, her heartbeat gradually steadied. She knew that today's events would change her entire life. From just wanting to get on my bus, to now wanting to take my life. But fate is just like that. Jiang Lushi, you can't blame anyone, she told herself. Meanwhile, Brother Cheng had called Peng Yi, and together with Lin Wei and the others, they set up an ambush. In total, there were 5 paranormals and over 20 men. With such a force, dealing with a minibus carrying a few people was almost foolproof. Even though I had a few paranormals with me, once Li Yuhan was lured into the trap, the rest of us would definitely hear the commotion and rush over. When that happened, they just needed to open fire from the windows to kill me and my entire team. No matter how skilled I was, it would be hard to avoid a sudden, coordinated ambush by so many people. Before long, Wang Kuei and Lu Shanshan were standing in front of my minibus. Brother Jiang, Luo Ming went to find Brother Cheng, but we don't know where Brother Cheng went. Brother Jiang, can I ask you something? Wang Kuei smiled subserviently, stepping closer. At the same time, Lu Shanshan approached Li Yuhan and lowered her voice. Yuhan, could you help examine me? I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable down there. Is it because of the poor hygiene conditions? If so, it's easy to feel uncomfortable. It's the apocalypse now. The conditions here are really bad. Even taking a shower is hard. Li Yuhan didn't suspect a thing, because women's health issues in this environment were very common. However, she didn't leave immediately. Wait a moment, let me tell him first. A dark glint flashed in Lu Shanshan's eyes. Li Yuhan was too obedient to me. She even had to ask before doing something like this. But she reassured herself that the excuse she gave was perfect, so there shouldn't be any problems. Hearing this, I looked at Lu Shanshan and walked over. It's fine to go for an examination. I'll come with you. Lu Shanshan was startled, her expression changing slightly. This isn't very convenient. Don't worry. I have no interest in you. I'm just going to protect you, Han, I said bluntly. Lu Shanshan looked at me, feeling increasingly uneasy. The way I looked at her was like looking at an idiot, a clown. I slowly continued. Wang Kuei, Lu Shanshan, do you really think that just because we're old classmates, I don't pose any threat to you? Lu Shanshan's face instantly changed. She suddenly realized that I was completely no longer the quiet, introverted Jiang Lushi from the past. I smirked, a natural contempt in my eyes. Her heart pounded wildly, her face turning pale. Facing me right now, the fear inside her was even greater than when she stood before Lin Wei. She tried to regain her composure, forcing a weak smile. How could that be? If you want to come along, then let's go. Good. We can tour the base while we're at it, Jiang Zhuiying said, jumping off the bus. Only Su Guangqi, Su Tong, the base manager, Zhang Hai, and Sun Kuan remained on the bus. I brought Jiang Zhuiying, Ran Xiu, Li Yuhan, and Zero along, following Lu Shanshan and Wang Kuei toward the center of the base. Lu Shanshan led the way with a tense expression, but outwardly tried to stay calm. Actually, seeing me bring the whole group along, she felt a bit of secret joy. Originally, she only planned to lure Li Yuhan out to use as a hostage. She didn't expect me to volunteer to follow, even bringing the 3 girls who were always by my side. Brother Jiang, we're almost there. For my condition, it's still better to go to the room, so Yuhan can examine me properly. Lu Shanshan said shyly, a hint of embarrassment on her face. I glanced at her, the corners of my mouth curling up slightly, but I didn't say anything. At this moment, inside a civilian house, 5 paranormals, and over 20 fully armed men were quietly waiting for Lu Shanshan to bring Li Yuhan into the room. In the corner, Luo Ming was tied up tightly, his mouth gagged, only able to stare wide-eyed at the door, his eyes full of pain and anxiety. Once the door opened, what awaited Li Yuhan would be an entire gang of armed thugs. The closer they got to the door, the faster Lu Shanshan's heart beat. She let out a soft breath and stopped in front of the door. "It's right here." I smirked and cut her off. "Aren't you going in for an examination? Open the door." In her heart, Lu Shanshan shook her head. "Jiang Lushi, do you think just because you've achieved a little something, you can look down on me?" Initially, she had planned to drag things out with a few more words, giving us a few more seconds to live out of consideration for our old classmate ties. But since it had come to this, she didn't need to say anything more. "Yuhan, let me go in first to get ready, then I'll call you in," Lu Shanshan said gently. Li Yuhan nodded and stood still. Lu Shanshan reached out, pushed the door open, and stepped 1 foot inside. At that exact moment, the smile on her face vanished, replaced by a complex mix of pity and relief in her eyes. A thought flashed through her mind. If I had treated her a bit more warmly, instead of not even remembering who she was, maybe she would have hesitated. As for Li Yuhan, she's just collateral damage. But she's lived comfortably for too long. Now it's her turn to pay the price. Gunshots rang out suddenly. Bang, bang, bang. Lu Shanshan's whole body jolted, but she tried to keep her face calm. Everything was supposed to go according to plan, but the next second, she felt like she'd been struck by lightning, her body stiffening. Right before her eyes, a body slowly collapsed to the ground. Just looking at the upper half, she recognized it as one of Lin Wei's right-hand men, an excellent marksman. Now, he was clutching his gun, eyes wide in disbelief, blood pouring profusely from his forehead. The heavy thuds of bodies hitting the ground echoed one after another. In the blink of an eye, 7 or 8 corpses appeared before Lu Shanshan, all of them the gunmen who had been lying in ambush by the windows. She felt her entire body turn ice cold, completely unable to believe what she had just seen. Only then did she realize that the gunshots, just now, had all come from behind her. As for Wang Kuei, his legs were shaking uncontrollably, his lips moving but unable to make a sound. He stood just a step away from Lu Shanshan, but closer to me. He heard the slow footsteps echoing behind him. The footsteps weren't loud, but to his ears, they sounded like heavy drum beats. With every step, his heart clenched. Lu Shanshan stood frozen in place, watching as I and the girls beside me casually walked into the room, standing right in front of her. We just strolled in, completely unbothered. Inside, Lin Wei and his men were all dumbfounded. They had set up 7 or 8 gunmen in ambush by the windows, all of them their best shooters. The windows were dusty and covered with thick curtains. It was impossible to see inside from the outside. Yet, the moment they were about to pull the trigger, I had drawn my guns. Without even aiming, I pointed both hands in different directions and fired continuously. In the blink of an eye, all the gunmen behind the windows were wiped out before they could even fire a single shot. All of them were shot in the head, sent straight to hell without a chance to fight back. My marksmanship and ability to pinpoint their locations left them in absolute despair. Lin Wei couldn't believe it. A situation he thought was completely under control had suddenly collapsed to this extent. When my team and I walked in, his heart had already started to tremble. A man next to him tried to steady himself. "Calm down. We still have over 10 people and more paranormals than them. He only has 4 women with him. What are we afraid of?" Right then, an icy voice echoed in his ear. "Who are you calling women?" In a split second, a dark shadow flashed by. The ambushers near the door all grabbed their throats at the same time, but blood still gushed through their fingers. Their bodies convulsed before they collapsed. The dark shadow revealed its form. It was just a petite girl, like a night cat, standing there quietly. She held a dagger dripping with blood, looking at them with cold eyes. Lin Wei's scalp went numb. One by one, his men were taken down in an instant. Peng Yi and the rest finally realized they had been far too careless. They had no idea that such terrifying paranormals existed in this world. Lu Shanshan's face was deathly pale. Only now did she truly understand how terrifying my marksmanship was. And besides Li Yuhan, the girls beside me were powerful beyond imagination. Just then, Lin Wei suddenly regained his composure and barked out orders. Peng, come with me and rush that kid. No matter how good his aim is, it's useless up close. You too, take care of that little cat. The rest of you, grab the girls behind him. He calculated perfectly. Li Yuhan was just a doctor. The other girl had a unique aura but looked weak, her paranormal energy not strong. As for the tall, beautiful girl, she looked like a high school student, at most 18 or 19, and her energy felt even weaker than the other girls. As long as they captured these three, even if I didn't care about their lives, I'd be forced to hold back. But before they could make a move, the tall girl stepped forward. Jiang Zhuiying smiled faintly. You want to capture me? Why go through so much trouble? Lin Wei was startled. He didn't expect her to hear him. This hearing was too terrifying. Little did he know, not only Jiang Zhuiying, but even I heard every single word clearly. Their plotting was no different from speaking right to my face. Sister Zero, you've worked hard. Come back. After Jiang Zhuiying said that, she giggled and stepped into the middle of the room, deliberately exposing an opening to Lin Wei's group. Seeing this, Lu Shanshan, who was trembling with fear, suddenly felt a glimmer of hope. This girl is too overconfident. Looking at how he treats her, he clearly dotes on her. If they capture her. Lin Wei and his gang thought the same, their eyes instantly lighting up. Right at that moment, Jiang Zhuiying suddenly swung her arm. The long cloth-wrapped bundle in her hand was yanked hard, the fabric unfurling to reveal a sharp sword with iron chains that clinked together. But that wasn't the most terrifying part. Immediately after, tiny sparks of electricity began to dance along the blade. Rumble. Like a clap of thunder, a terrifying surge of energy erupted from Jiang Zhuiying, so powerful it left all of them in absolute terror. What kind of paranormal ability was this? Lightning engulfed the sword, then spread across Jiang Zhuiying's entire body. From her hands to her whole form, silver electricity danced wildly. Her eyes gleamed with a silver light, looking at Lin Wei's group as if they were nothing but bugs. Lu Shanshan and Wang Kuei felt a sharp pain in their skin from the electric current, terrified to the extreme. Their vision suddenly went completely white. There were no screams. When their sight gradually returned, all that was left were charred corpses, still frozen in their previous poses. Jiang Zhuiying stood still as if she hadn't done anything, pouting. So boring. These guys simply weren't worth her using her full strength. Since her evolution, she hadn't had a real fight yet. This time was just discharging some electricity to stretch her muscles. But right then, someone sprang up and lunged straight toward Luo Ming, who was tied up in the corner. It was Lin Wei. His ability was defense-oriented, and he had hidden behind a wooden cabinet right from the start to dodge the attack. Even so, he couldn't completely avoid the electric current. He was shocked so badly his hair was burned off, and his skin was covered in burns. Seeing there was still a survivor, I was a bit surprised. It seemed there were people with some skill here, but it was only some skill. Bang! Bang! In a split second, I fired as fast as lightning, the bullets accurately piercing straight through Lin Wei's legs. He crashed to the ground, howling in agony, the pain from the gunshot wounds tearing through his body. I walked over and lifted Lin Wei up with one hand. Seeing this, Wang Kuei completely broke down, his legs giving out as he slumped to the floor. My terrifying nature didn't just lie in my marksmanship, but in myself and the paranormal standing behind me. I glanced at Luo Ming and pulled the gag out of his mouth. Luo Ming, who beat you up like this? Lin Wei gasped for air, his face pale. Was it him? I asked. Luo Ming nodded blankly. I looked back at Lin Wei. He looked up, enduring the pain, and stammered, Brother Jiang. It was all Peng Yi who instigated me to do it. Peng Yi? I don't know him, and I'm not interested. I cut him off, not bothering to hear more. A vicious glint flashed in Lin Wei's eyes. His body suddenly twisted bizarrely as he lunged straight at me. I simply sidestepped slightly, as if taking a stroll. A cold light flashed in my hand, and the triangular bayonet plunged straight into the back of his neck. When I pulled the knife out, Lin Wei collapsed face first onto the ground, dead on the spot. Overestimating his own strength. From beginning to end, I didn't even bother to give him a second glance. Wang Kuei sat slumped on the floor, his whole body trembling violently. In just a minute or two since I entered the room, everyone here had been wiped out. Right then, Lu Shanshan suddenly snapped, pointing at Wang Kuei and screaming, "Wang Kuei, you're not even human. How dare you use me? No wonder when I said I was asking Yuhan for an examination, you insisted on tagging along." Crying, she rushed in front of me, trembling. "Jiang Lushi, I'm sorry. It's all because I was tricked. I was so scared. If you guys weren't so strong, everyone would have been in danger because of me." "It wasn't me," Wang Kuei stammered, his voice shaking. I looked at Lu Shanshan crying in front of me. "Is that so? Are you crying like this because you regret it?" Lu Shanshan looked up, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Of course. Actually, I didn't dare to say it, but I was hoping you'd take me with you. I was just afraid of being a burden. You don't know how happy I was to see you today? Even if you don't remember me, I still remember you. Before, when your friend introduced us, I was so happy, but then you stopped contacting me. I was angry, then I regretted it. If I knew the apocalypse was coming, I would have looked for you a long time ago." She spoke while crying, seemingly convinced that a man would soften up to a woman who admired him. I looked at her and couldn't help but laugh. Seeing me laugh, Lu Shanshan paused, then forced a smile along with me, even finding my smile strangely attractive. But right then, I opened my mouth. "Lu Shanshan, I really admire your acting skills." Her heart skipped a beat. She looked up, her expression a mix of innocence and panic. "Have you ever heard of a psychic paranormal?" I said calmly. "From the moment you showed up, everything you were thinking, all your schemes and calculations, I knew them all." My words hit Lu Shanshan's head like a hammer. She felt like she was falling straight into an abyss, her legs trembling, her lips pale. It turned out that from the very beginning, I knew everything. I just stood there, watching her put on a play, to the point where even she believed her own lies, while I laughed like I was watching a clown. "Brother Jiang, I was just confused for a moment. Please spare me. Please, for the sake of us being old classmates. I'm just a weak woman." Lu Shanshan begged in despair. Right then, her heart pounded wildly as she saw the gun in my hand slowly raise. She backed away in terror, shaking her head repeatedly. "Jiang Lushi, are you really going to kill a woman?" Bang! A thin wisp of gun smoke rose. I watched Lu Shanshan's body fall backward and said coldly, "Do you even call yourself a woman?" Seeing me shoot Lu Shanshan without hesitation, Wang Kuei completely broke down in terror. He let out a miserable shriek, turned, and fled, rolling and crawling out the door. I watched his panic back and knew very well that from the moment he and Lu Shanshan decided to plot against us, they had crossed the point of no return. "Let's get out of here, Luo Ming." I personally untied Luo Ming and helped him up. "Let me take a look." Li Yuhan stepped forward to check, then said, "It's just superficial wounds. Nothing serious. With minor injuries like these, she could handle them easily." A complex emotion flashed in Li Yuhan's eyes, and she sighed softly. In this apocalypse, running into an acquaintance was already hard enough. She never expected it to end like this. Maybe our appearance turned this place upside down, Li Yuhan said. Luo Ming pondered for a moment, then shook his head. "No, it's because they were too greedy. Lin Wei and his gang saw wealth and got greedy. In the apocalypse, dying to zombies or mutant beasts is common. But people like Lu Shanshan and Wang Kuei, living in this base without having to face those things, still push themselves to their deaths. That's the price of greed and scheming." Luo Ming sighed a few times, then looked at me. "Anyway, Jiang Lushi, you're really amazing. Your team too." Speaking of this, he suddenly remembered something and quickly turned to Jiang Zhuiying and the others, saying awkwardly, "I'm sorry, everyone. When we first met, I thought you were just pretty faces. I didn't expect you to not only be beautiful, but also so strong." He thought about how I mentioned having a psychic paranormal on the team, afraid that his initial thoughts had all been seen through. I walked to the door. The entire survivor base was eerily quiet, but I knew the gunshots earlier had terrified all the survivors. They just didn't dare show their faces. "Are there any other paranormals in this base?" I asked. Luo Ming replied, "There's one more, but he went out to find medicine." "Is that so?" I nodded. Luo Ming quickly added, "He's not a bad guy, and he doesn't get along with Lin Wei's gang. When they were beating us, he even stepped in to stop them." I curled my lip. "Do you think I'm an indiscriminate killer? If they don't mess with me, I won't touch them." "No, it's just that you're too strong." Luo Ming scratched his head. My team and I left the room full of corpses and headed toward the minibus. Along the way, we clearly felt the fearful gazes from the surrounding tents. The survivors peeked out cautiously, unable to believe the scene before them. When the gunshots rang out, they thought this group of strangers had met their doom, hiding in their homes and sighing in pity. No one expected that in such a short time, we would walk out proudly, completely unharmed and full of life. Even so, the stench of blood and burning flesh spreading from the room sent chills down their spines. Seeing Luo Ming walking with me, the others finally gathered the courage to step out, crowding around the door of the room and peering inside carefully. With just one glance, everyone was stunned. What on earth just happened here? We approached the minibus. The thugs Lin Wei had stationed around to keep watch were all lying dead on the ground. He had planned to have his men shoot out the tires when they heard the gunshots, then kill everyone inside. Unfortunately, he didn't understand the power of paranormals, nor did he know how sturdy this minibus was. Moreover, Zhang Hai, Sun Kuan, and Ing had already spotted their intentions. Using the bus for cover, they struck first and finished them off cleanly. Seeing me return, Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan smiled brightly, carrying their guns as they walked into the base. The two of them were tall and burly. Anyone who didn't know better would think bandits had raided the village. It's a pity that old Chung died too early, otherwise we could have squeezed a bit more info about Jiangning out of him. Luo Ming sighed. He was just a lackey. How much could he really know? What you told us is enough, I replied with a smile. After the apocalypse, Luo Ming seemed more optimistic. Leave this place to that paranormal you mentioned. There are still a lot of elderly and children in the base, and this area is remote with few zombies. You just need to watch out for mutant beasts. Now that Lin Wei is dead, their lives will be less oppressed. Come with me to Jiangning, I said to Luo Ming. You didn't betray me today, and that warms my heart. In the apocalypse, having a sincere friend is incredibly rare. I want to take you to the safe zone, because you're just an ordinary person. Following my team would be too dangerous. Jiangning? Luo Ming paused, hesitated for a moment, then shook his head, surprising me. I'm not going. Seeing my confusion, he explained, actually, it's nothing. I escaped with a few friends back then, but I don't know how my family is doing. I'll stay in Jiangbei. If one or two of my relatives are still alive, maybe I'll run into them, just like I ran into you today. He knew it was a slim hope, but today's encounter had lit a spark in his heart. Don't worry, Qinjing is still here. I have an acquaintance if I stay. Besides, after what happened today, everyone knows I have a badass brother like you. Who would dare mess with me? Luo Ming smiled and patted my shoulder. I stayed silent for a moment, then nodded. Since Luo Ming had made up his mind, I didn't want to push it. Right then, Sun Kuan returned looking disappointed. I thought these guys would have something valuable, but they're broke as hell. This is all they had. He held out a small bag containing 2 mutant beast nuclei. There were a few guns, but I'm not interested. They're even worse than the weapons I threw away. Brother Jiang, take this. Even a little bit has value. Sun Kuan tossed the bag of nuclei to me, still annoyed that he had searched a pile of corpses only to find this much. It's better than nothing, I replied. Where's Zhang Hai? Jiang Zhuiying looked around but didn't see him. Right at that moment, the roar of an engine echoed from inside the base. An army green off-road vehicle sped over and slammed on the brakes next to the minibus. Zhang Hai stuck his head out the driver's window, looking excited. Brother Jiang, what do you think? A Dongfeng armored vehicle. Looks intimidating enough, right? I saw the news. This type is specially used for transporting troops. The defense is top-notch. This was probably a military vehicle left behind during the retreat when the apocalypse broke out, which then fell into the hands of the paranormals at this base, and now into Zhang Hai's hands. Too bad the driver wasn't great, and the modifications are sloppy. If I redo it, it can at least withstand a few waves of zombies. He said this while stroking the steering wheel in fascination. I smiled faintly. This scene was too familiar. Zhang Hai was a car fanatic. Whenever he saw a good car, he wanted to drive it immediately. It was just a pity his cars usually didn't last long. Sure enough, after being excited for 2 seconds, he looked at me and sighed. No matter how many times I modify it, it's still 10,000 miles behind yours. I don't know how long this car will hold up. Just give it a try. Adding 2 layers of steel should do it, I smiled. The minibus was getting crowded anyway. Having Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan drive this vehicle behind us made sense. Luo Ming, are you really not coming with us? I asked again. Luo Ming rolled his eyes. Come on, man. Don't keep the beautiful ladies waiting. If you're ever in the area, just drop by and visit me. Let's go. Li Yuhan gently pulled my arm, and we both got on the bus. As the bus doors closed, Luo Ming took 2 steps back, watching the minibus and the off-road vehicle drive away, then waved his hand vigorously. Jiangning. Before the apocalypse, it was a famous historical city, a tourist destination, and a high-tech hub with over 14 million people. I had been here once on a school field trip, so my knowledge of it was only superficial. Returning after the apocalypse, it felt chillingly unfamiliar, as if I had never known it at all. Su Guangqi, Su Tong, and Li Yuhan sat by the window, quietly looking out. The minibus rolled past abandoned cars. The houses on both sides were empty, the streets devoid of people, with only zombies roaming about. The beautiful scenery of the past had been frantically swallowed by mutated plants. This place was no different from any other ruined city. We don't know where the safe zone is yet. Let's find some survivors first and figure it out from there. I said. Jiangning covers over 8,500 square kilometers, and the center is swarming with zombies. We can't just drive around blindly. Let me try. Ran Xiu expanded her psychic vision to its limit, her gaze seemingly piercing through all the objects ahead. Suddenly, she spoke up. I detected a psychic paranormal. The other party is also probing. Our 2 invisible psychic waves touched and immediately separated. Only someone of the same type would feel it. Should we go over and take a look? She asked. I've pinpointed the general location. Of course, I nodded. Right now, there weren't many survivor teams capable of threatening us. Plus, if there was any danger, she would warn us in advance. At the same time, in a small house in the suburbs of Jiangning, a girl around 20 years old suddenly cried out and opened her eyes wide. She was beautiful and alluring, but dressed conservatively. Her soft voice created a stark contrast. What's wrong? There were over 10 people in the room. Another girl holding an assault rifle, wearing a loose jacket, a tight t-shirt, and jeans, who was resting in the corner, also opened her eyes and asked. She wasn't old, but her gaze was cold and sharp. I was just sensed by a psychic paranormal, the first girl said fearfully, patting her chest. A psychic paranormal? It's probably some survivor team. I wonder if they'll come here, someone said. They had been probing and sending distress signals because they had been trapped for nearly a week. The faces in the room all showed a glimmer of hope, praying that the team would come and rescue them from this desperate situation. At this moment, the girl holding the gun spoke up. Even if they come, they have a psychic paranormal on their team. Do you think they won't sense the danger here? If they know it's dangerous, they won't come. Hearing this, the survivors all looked disappointed. It was true. A level 2 mutant zombie was a fatal threat to most teams. If they could foresee the danger, staying away was the smart choice. So what reason would that team have to risk their lives coming here? In reality, their calls for help were just a gamble on luck. If they ran into a familiar team they had helped before, there might still be hope. But the chances of that were almost zero, let alone a team of strangers. No one had any reason to risk their lives to save others. Thinking of this, the atmosphere grew even more despairing. Their team actually wasn't weak. They had 6 paranormals, and the rest were ordinary people. They always acted together, scavenging for food and medicine, hunting mutant beasts, and surviving by relying on each other. The captain was the girl holding the gun, named Wei Feifei. To deal with the level 2 mutant zombie, she had barely slept, only taking short naps to keep her strength up. She was now at her limit. If she collapsed, no one in the group could fight off that level 2 zombie, and they would all die. I'll rest for a bit, then launch an attack, Wei Feifei said, taking a small piece of dried meat from her pocket and chewing it slowly. She chewed thoroughly to prolong the feeling of fullness. Trapped for a week, their food was running out, and her stamina was nearly depleted. If they didn't risk it now, once their strength dropped further, they wouldn't even have the chance to fight. Feifei, the psychic girl next to her, looked at her, eyes red. Don't cry. It wastes energy and spirit. When we run, everyone still needs you to guide us away from the zombies. Wei Feifei's voice was cold and decisive. She was younger, but her aura didn't allow anyone to object. The psychic girl, named Taozi, shrank back, biting her lip and sitting huddled up. The psychic wave just now was clearly stronger than hers. Tauzi regretted panicking and withdrawing immediately upon sensing it. Maybe she should have sent a distress signal. Trying was better than nothing. That way, Wei Feifei wouldn't have to risk her life. But over the past few days, her psychic energy had been drained, and that brief clash had sapped the last bit of her strength. Tauzi closed her eyes, trying to calm down and recover, but she couldn't find peace. She buried her face in her knees, crying silently, tears falling endlessly. The air in the room was heavy. Many quietly wiped their tears, not daring to look at Wei Feifei because they couldn't help at all. Minutes ticked by. Suddenly, a psychic wave swept through. Tauzi jolted and looked up. "What's wrong?" someone asked urgently. Tauzi froze for a moment, then said, "They're asking where we are." The whole room instantly buzzed with excitement. Not only did the other party know about them, but they had also initiated contact. "Who are they?" Wei Feifei asked. "I'll let them speak to you directly," Tauzi replied. Immediately after, a somewhat lazy voice echoed in Wei Feifei's mind. "We're the Heaven's Pole team. I heard your team has been missing for a few days. We just happened to be in the area today." Yongying. A flash of surprise appeared in Wei Feifei's eyes, accompanied by complex emotions. She knew Yongying very well. Even though her team only operated around here, she often went to the Jiangning Survivor Market to trade. Hundreds of teams, big and small, gathered there, and the Heaven's Pole team was one of them. The captain, Yang Ying, was a terrifying psychic paranormal. At the market, he had repeatedly invited her to join his team, acting exceptionally enthusiastic. But she always refused, because she had heard plenty of bad rumors, especially about how he targeted young, beautiful female paranormals. And she practically hit every single one of his preferences. "I was just doing a random psychic scan. I didn't expect to find you girls." Feifei, holding out until now couldn't have been easy. Yongying chuckled. Wei Feifei replied in her mind, "You discovered us a while ago, didn't you?" Earlier, Yang Ying had feigned surprise, claiming he had just arrived in the area and scanned, not wanting to waste psychic energy over such a long distance. Then he asked, "There's a very strong psychic entity near you. Is it a zombie or a mutant beast?" Wei Feifei had initially suspected the previous psychic wave wasn't his, but hearing this, she pushed those doubts aside. "It's a level 2 mutant zombie," she answered straightforwardly. She didn't plan to lie in exchange for help, because Yang Ying was very cunning and hard to fool. Whether he came here by chance or not, he was absolutely not a simple person. Thinking he would help unconditionally was just deceiving herself. TSK, that's not easy to deal with. Yang Ying sounded troubled. "Even though our Heaven's Pole team is one of the top 10 strongest teams, killing a level 2 mutant zombie is very costly. Feifei, I really want to help you, but I can't let my team take risks for nothing. Manpower, ammo, it's all a huge loss." Wei Feifei sighed and sent her thoughts back. 5 crates of ammo, 5 tons of mutant beast meat, and 4 level 1 mutant nuclei. For her team, scraping that together was already bleeding them dry. But clearly, Yang Ying still wasn't satisfied. "Feifei, is your team's lives only worth that much?" Yang Ying sneered. "Or do you take our Heaven's Pole team for beggars?" "Yang Ying, I know your team is strong, but taking those supplies to the market is still a substantial profit. Just say it. What do you want?" Wei Feifei frowned, not dodging the issue. Yang Ying chuckled softly, completely shameless. "You really are straightforward. I'll just say it. I like you a lot. Plus, your team has a psychic paranormal. Even though there are a lot of ordinary people, overall, it's not bad. What do you want?" "We'll step in, but afterward, your team has to merge into the Heaven's Pole team." Wei Feifei's face instantly turned ice cold. "Merge?" To put it bluntly, it was selling themselves. "You mean me and my whole team have to belong to you?" she asked, her voice freezing. "Don't make it sound so ugly," Yang Ying laughed. "You get to keep your lives, and joining my team is a win-win. In fact, your team benefits even more. That's my only condition." Wei Feifei didn't believe him. The word merge was definitely not as simple as he made it sound. She stayed silent for a moment, then relayed the message to everyone. Hearing the name Heaven's Pole team, the room immediately erupted in murmurs. Someone whispered that Yang Ying was very brutal, and that his team had Feng Xingjin, a cold-blooded killer who even used corpses to feed zombies. But if we refused the Heaven's Pole team, no one could finish the sentence. No one wanted to die, but everyone knew their notorious reputation. Oh, right. Yang Ying's voice echoed in Wei Feifei's mind again. Are you planning to risk your life against the level 2 mutant zombie to let your team escape? Feifei, you're too naive. Wei Feifei's eyes darkened. You're reading my mind. I can't help it. Yang Ying laughed. I'm a psychic paranormal. Some of your thoughts just transfer over on their own. You're really brave, but honestly, I think even if you risk your life, your team still won't escape. A wave of nausea rose in Wei Feifei's chest. She knew very well that if she refused, Yang Ying wouldn't just leave them to die. He might even come back and stomp on them. With the Heaven's Pole team's strength, that would be too easy. Right at this moment, not far from the house where they were hiding, a few off-road vehicles were parked in the middle of the street. Surrounding them were dozens of zombie corpses with broken necks, not bleeding to avoid attracting more of their kind, and the level 2 mutant zombie. Beside the corpses stood a giant of a man, while leaning against a car was a good-looking young man with eyes full of malice. Wei Feifei, you're out of options. Yang Ying chewed his gum, fixing his hair in the rearview mirror. No woman I've set my sights on has ever escaped. But right then his eyelid twitched. In the rearview mirror, a white speck appeared at the end of the street, rapidly growing larger. It was a minibus. My team and I weren't familiar with the roads, so it took us some time to find our way here. Brother Jiang, the group ahead is the one that just arrived, Ranxiu said. I nodded. I didn't know anyone in Jiangning, so anyone would do, as long as I could ask for directions. Also, there's a level 2 mutant zombie ahead of them, Xiu continued. My eyes lit up. A level 2 mutant zombie. To upgrade the minibus to level 2, I needed 2 level 2 mutant nuclei, and those could only be obtained from this type of zombie. Running into a level 2 mutant zombie right now was even better news to me than meeting survivors. Up ahead, Yang Ying and his gang were already staring warily at the suddenly appearing minibus, followed by an armored off-road vehicle. As the minibus got closer, Yang Ying heard a familiar sound. Very familiar, but it made his heart sink. That sound, wasn't it? Virum. Fuck. I saw Yang Ying almost curse out loud. What the hell was wrong with this minibus? Why was the engine so damn loud? They were hiding here specifically to avoid alerting that level 2 mutant zombie. But now, this was no different from standing in the middle of the street with a megaphone, shouting, there are people here. Level 2 mutant zombie, come and get us. Watching the minibus barrel straight toward them, the engine noise growing louder by the second, Yang Ying wished he had a rocket launcher to blow this damn bus to pieces. Screech. The minibus slammed on the brakes right in front of their cars, just as their vehicles were blocking the road, cutting off our path. Yang Ying and I faced each other. The next second, an ear-piercing honk blasted from the minibus. God damn it. Yang Ying cursed in shock. Who the hell dares to honk in this godforsaken place? This wasn't just stupid, it was downright insane. What kind of team would dare honk in the middle of a ruined city? Did they think they had too many lives to spare? Before Yang Ying could even open his mouth to interrogate them, the passenger window of the minibus rolled down. Ying stuck her head out, her face expressionless, her voice icy. Can you move out of the way? The moment he saw Ying, Yang Ying's anger vanished instantly. Not just him, but his entire gang behind him was stunned. Before the apocalypse, Yang Ying was a playboy. When the apocalypse hit, he was lucky enough to awaken psychic abilities, becoming even more reckless and cruel. The women he couldn't reach before could now be taken through threats or coercion. But compared to the woman in front of him, everyone he had ever had paled in comparison. Ying's aura was as cold as ice, her gaze looking through people as if they were thin air, yet her beauty was unbelievably flawless, her figure alluring and proud. A woman like this was exactly the type Yang Ying desired to conquer the most. The feeling Wei Feifei gave him was similar. The more she refused, the more he wanted to crush her pride beneath his feet. But right now, Wei Feifei was practically already in his grasp, while all his attention was completely sucked away by the woman on the minibus. You're quite a beauty, but you look unfamiliar. Which team are you from? Yang Ying stared intently at Ying, asking with a smile. In this area, he had never heard of any team using a minibus, let alone a woman like her. Ying's expression didn't change. Other than me, she had absolutely no interest in talking to anyone. Move. We're in a hurry. Yang Ying glanced at his teammates and smirked. This girl really has personality. Right then, the driver's side window rolled down. I sat behind the wheel, my voice cold. Didn't you hear that we're in a hurry? Just by looking at the way Yang Ying's eyes were glued to Ying, I could guess almost all the filthy thoughts running through his head. Which team are you guys from? I know almost every team in Jiangning, but I've never seen you before. The smile on Yang Ying's face gradually faded, his voice slowing down and turning noticeably colder. So the driver was just some kid, and this was the same kid who dared to honk the horn. The anger that had just died down flared up again in his chest. It's normal that you haven't heard of us. Since the apocalypse started, this is my first time in Jiangning, I replied casually. Yang Ying raised an eyebrow. At first, he thought this was some powerful expanding team, but it turned out they were just outsiders. If that was the case, this would be too easy. To him, an outsider team was like a fat sheep delivering itself to his door. Well, don't blame me for not warning you, but there's a level 2 mutant zombie up ahead. Yang Ying spoke slowly, trying to observe my and Ying's reactions. But he was disappointed, because we didn't show a hint of fear. And I asked, if I didn't know there was a level 2 mutant zombie, I wouldn't have rushed over here. Huh. And Yang Ying was stunned, not knowing if I was truly stupid or just playing dumb. You guys just honked. You've probably already alerted it. If you keep going, you'll only find death. You won't even have time to run. Hearing this, I found it even more amusing. He spoke as if he was looking out for me, but there was clearly an ulterior motive. So what's your proposal? Not exactly a proposal, but you can come with us. A level 2 mutant zombie isn't easy to deal with. I'm a psychic paranormal, but my ability to suppress it has limits. You might not have heard of the Heaven's Pole team, but in Jiangning, you'll know about us sooner or later. Yang Ying said, his voice full of confidence. He believed I would be tempted, because everything he said was true. A level 2 mutant zombie was harder to deal with than a same-level mutant beast, and yielded no benefits, so most teams stayed far away. But I just looked at him and asked one more question. And then what? Just simple cooperation? It's definitely not that simple. Hearing this, Yang Ying's face instantly darkened. Unable to hold back anymore, he snapped, Are you fucking with me? Move out of the way now, or I'll ram straight through. I was truly sick of arguing with this guy. The movements of a level 2 mutant zombie were very unpredictable. If anything unexpected happened, it would only add to the trouble. Fuck, why are you talking so tough? One of Yang Ying's men finally lost his temper, throwing his half-smoked cigarette to the ground. Yang Ying raised a hand to stop him, his voice nonchalant. Move the cars. I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen. I guess there's nothing I can do. He wanted to see with his own eyes how this group would march to their deaths out of sheer overconfidence. Although Yang Ying was cunning and ruthless, he wasn't stupid. He knew there were some people you just shouldn't mess with. In Jiangning, there were a few teams that weren't afraid of level 2 mutant zombies. But not being afraid didn't mean they were crazy enough to charge headfirst into known danger. Even if Wei Feifei had agreed to his terms, he never intended to fight it head-on. At most, he would have found a way to distract it or stall for time. These guys knew there was a level 2 mutant zombie, yet they still charged in. Clearly, they weren't the sharpest tools in the shed. Yang Ying had no intention of clashing with us directly. If we wanted to seek our own deaths, he was more than happy to stand by and reap the benefits. Their vehicles slowly began to pull over to the sides. One of them deliberately glared at my minibus and spat hard on the ground, his face full of contempt. In Jiangning, their team was used to being the overlords. An outsider team threatening to ram their way through? In their eyes, we were just courting death. The vehicle he was driving was reinforced with thick steel plates. Rows of sharp steel teeth, each about 10 centimeters long, were welded to the front and back. The black crust stuck to them wasn't rust. It was flesh and blood. In Jiangning, this type of vehicle was called the saber-toothed tiger. It was famous among survivors, and not just any team had the resources to equip one. He deliberately drove close to my minibus to provoke me before swerving aside. At that exact moment, I slammed on the gas. With a roar, the minibus shot forward. The other vehicle couldn't dodge in time. With a massive crash, the minibus slammed right into its rear. Inside the cabin, he only felt a terrifying force of impact. The vehicle instantly lost control, and everything spun wildly before his eyes. Before he could even process what happened, the front of his car smashed into the median strip. By the time he regained his senses, my minibus was already speeding away. Damn it! He leaped out of the car, glaring after us and roaring in fury. You want to die? But when he turned back to look at his own vehicle, his face instantly turned pale. Motherf asterisk cur. The saber-toothed tiger was now nothing more than a toothless tiger. The row of steel teeth on the back had been completely snapped off. The taillights were shattered, and the rear end was heavily caved in. The front, having crashed into the median, was also severely damaged. He angrily kicked the side of the car, cursing nonstop. Yang Ying's eyes turned ice cold. It was obvious that our group didn't take the Tianji team seriously at all. Tail them, Yang Ying sneered. When they try to retreat, we'll give them a helping hand. As far as he was concerned, these newcomers to Jiangning had officially offended the Tianji team. Even if they were a bit strong, he could still play them to death. Old Fong, get in, Yang Ying called out. Fong Xingjin had been standing silently to the side this whole time. Only now did he walk toward the off-road vehicle. Even Yang Ying felt a sense of pressure watching him approach. Fong Xingjin was a madman. His mutant ability was incredibly strong, and his combat power was absolutely terrifying. Anyone facing him felt like they could be torn to shreds at any moment. The women who fell into his hands suffered an even worse fate. They rarely survived a single night. Even Yang Ying had to admit that this guy was sick in the head. Later, just tear that kid apart. If there are any women on that bus, they're yours, Yang Ying said coldly. Fong Xingjin stepped into the vehicle, causing the chassis to tremble slightly. Let's go. Stay on their tail. I stepped on the gas, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Shiyu, lock onto the level 2 mutant zombie. On it, Ran Shiyu stared straight ahead, expanding her spiritual vision to quickly pinpoint the zombie's exact location. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Found it. The target's location was instantly shared through our mental link. I see it. I replied as a glowing sphere of spiritual energy appeared in my vision. In this vision, the level 2 mutant zombie had absolutely nowhere to hide. Just looking at that glowing sphere gave off an intense sense of danger, like a creature's primal instinct when facing its natural predator. Ordinary people were already terrified of regular zombies. If they encountered a level 2 mutant zombie, even their courage to run would probably vanish. Right at that moment, the level 2 mutant zombie seemed to sense something. It's approaching, Ran Shiyu immediately warned. The roaring engine of the minibus had drawn a massive horde of zombies. And from within that chaotic swarm, a terrifying shriek suddenly erupted. The shriek was like a thunderclap in a clear sky. In an instant, it drove the entire zombie horde into a frenzy. Roar! Hundreds, even thousands of zombies howled in unison. The thundering sound of their stampeding footsteps made Yang Ying and his men trailing behind turn pale. Tell Zhang Hai and the others to fall back a bit more, I ordered immediately. Ran Shiyu quickly relayed my command to Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan in the back. Their armored off-road vehicle could only handle a small group of zombies. The current situation was way beyond its limits. Up in the small building, Wei Fei and the others were falling into despair. They had heard the honking earlier, but couldn't clearly see what was happening below. Now, that bone-chilling shriek echoed from the street below once again. Is it Yang Ying? Taozi's face was ashen as she hurriedly peeked through the gap in the curtains. But when she looked down, the sight before her left everyone stunned. The zombie horde was surging like a tidal wave, all rushing in the same direction. Looking down from above, the scene was a terrifying visual shock. Right in the center of that undead flood, a minibus was charging straight ahead. It's not Yang Ying, Wei Fei said in a low voice. She knew his team too well. That couldn't possibly be his vehicle. Yang Ying would never drive a minibus out here, let alone honk the horn and draw the zombies to himself before she had even surrendered. Then who is it? The survivors were all dumbfounded. The minibus didn't turn around. Instead, it kept plowing straight into the zombie tide. This was nothing short of suicide. Compared to the vast sea of zombies, the minibus looked pitifully small. Not to mention, there was a level 2 mutant zombie hidden among them. Damn it! Are these guys trying to kill themselves? Yang Ying couldn't help but feel a chill. The way he saw it, The people on that minibus were completely insane. Once you charged in like that, there was absolutely no turning back. Originally, he had planned to take advantage of the situation and score some loot. But now, it seemed there would be nothing left to scavenge. It was best to leave early before getting dragged into this mess. As for Wei Fei and her group, they would probably use the chaos to escape. Thinking about how all his plans were ruined by this minibus, Yang Ying was so furious he wanted to murder someone. What a bunch of idiots. If you want to die, at least pick a different spot. He gritted his teeth and cursed, absolutely certain that the group wouldn't survive. If they somehow didn't die, he definitely wouldn't let that kid driving the bus off the hook. Right then, the minibus collided with the vanguard of the zombie horde. Boom! A massive explosion echoed out. Wei Fei's pupils shrank. Taozi and the others were completely stunned. From the front of the minibus, a terrifying blast of compressed air shot outward. Wherever the air cannon swept through, zombies were sent flying in all directions, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. The ferocious zombie tide was instantly ripped apart. Having just finished cursing, Yang Ying nearly bit his own tongue. His eyes bulged, almost unable to believe what he was seeing. From behind, all he could see was that at the front of the minibus, zombies were either crushed to death or sent flying. Yet the vehicle's speed didn't drop in the slightest. Immediately after, the air cannon at the front retracted, revealing a sharp, ramming horn that pierced straight into the horde ahead. Some of the survivors couldn't help but gulp hard. In Yang Ying's eyes, the minibus was now nothing less than a giant meat grinder. Nothing could stop it. Unbelievable. Right at that moment, a dark shadow suddenly leaped up from within the zombie horde. The zombie jumped straight onto the roof of an abandoned car. The entire car shook violently. Its already flat tires sank completely, and the chassis collapsed, caving in deeply under the pressure. Its strength was truly terrifying. A split second later, the zombie's figure vanished from the roof. Thud! A heavy sound echoed as it landed on the ground. Almost simultaneously, another loud bang rang out from the body of the minibus. The windshield of the driver's cabin instantly spiderwebbed with countless cracks, and the speeding vehicle suddenly swerved off course. I immediately adjusted the steering wheel reflexively. Thanks to its outstanding performance, the minibus quickly stabilized. The ear-piercing screech of tires rubbing against the asphalt rang out. The vehicle braked hard just in time, its rear end sweeping out and sending a large swath of zombies flying. A mutant zombie. Yang Ying and the men behind him broke out in a cold sweat watching this scene. The strength and speed of this mutant zombie were simply too terrifying. If they had to face it head-on, their vehicle would have probably been flipped over by now. Only now did Yang Ying realize he had severely underestimated this level 2 mutant zombie. Even though it was classified as level 2, it was clearly much stronger than others of the same tier. Thinking of this, an indescribable sense of relief welled up inside him. Thank God that idiot charged in first. Otherwise, Yang Ying would have likely been the one suffering heavy casualties. Even so, he couldn't help but curse inwardly at how lucky that minibus was. The kid driving had insane reflexes, a second slower, and they would have crashed straight into the wall. Especially the teammate whose car I had rear-ended. His face showed clear disappointment. But in his mind, the minibus and everyone inside had already been forced to a halt. Now, it was only a matter of time before it was all over for them. On the minibus, I slammed the brakes and immediately vaulted out of the driver's seat. Right after, Ing took over the controls of the vehicle. By now, the zombies had surged forward like a tide, swarming the minibus from all sides. Outside the windows, countless zombies were crowding and shoving, making the entire chassis shake violently. With just their teeth and nails, these zombies could easily tear through normal metal. But against this minibus, they still couldn't cause any real damage. Boom! Flames erupted fiercely like an explosion, swallowing the entire horde of zombies at the front. The napalm stuck to anything flammable and would burn continuously for over 10 minutes. Sparks flew everywhere, dragging even more zombies into the sea of fire. The temperature was so high that it distorted and warped the air around the minibus. At first, everyone assumed that this vehicle could no longer keep running. But the scene that followed left Wei Fei, the survivors, and even Yang Ying stunned once again. This minibus continuously shattered every limit they thought possible. What the hell is this minibus? This has to be a heavy-duty military vehicle. Yang Ying's eyes went wide. In Jiangning, everyone understood how crucial vehicles were. A team's strength largely depended on the rides they had at their disposal. But the vehicle right in front of them was absurdly overpowered. Yang Ying gulped, his voice dropping low. But no matter how strong the vehicle is, it's useless. It can't hit that level 2 mutant zombie. Fang Xingjin, standing beside him, gave a slight nod without saying a word. He watched the vehicle plowing into the sea of zombies. A rare trace of emotion flickered across his cold face, but it was gone in a flash. Just now, a single strike from the level 2 mutant zombie had nearly flipped the minibus. That monster was no different from a humanoid mutant beast, and it was even more cunning and agile. When the minibus attacked, you couldn't even see its shadow. So how were they supposed to hit it? Right at that moment, a circular object suddenly rose from the roof of the minibus. My figure appeared in the gunner room, the sniper rifle already resting firmly in my hands. My gaze instantly sharpened to the absolute limit. The naked eye couldn't keep up with the speed of a level 2 mutant zombie, but within my spiritual vision, I could lock onto the target perfectly. As my brain domain ability activated, everything around me seemed to slow down. Amidst the distant sea of zombies, I scanned every single spot. The level 2 mutant zombie. Where is it? Seeing a sniper emerge from the vehicle, Wei Feifei's eyes immediately lit up. She was a marksman herself. Her mutant ability was directly related to sniping, and it was this very power that had allowed her team to hold their ground in Jiangning. A skilled sniper could take down enemies far stronger than themselves, and her sniping skills were quite renowned in Jiangning. But being trapped here for a whole week proved that this level 2 mutant zombie was not easy to deal with. Still, this minibus had brought too many surprises. She wanted to see this person's sniping skills with her own eyes. Feifei, all the zombies are drawn to that vehicle right now, one of the survivors whispered. Many of them realized that with the level 2 mutant zombie and the street horde distracted by the minibus, the siege around them had been broken. Now was the perfect chance to quietly slip away. Wei Feifei hesitated. This was indeed the perfect opportunity to run, but that minibus had just saved them. Without it, they only had two paths left. Either be eaten by the level 2 mutant zombie, or be tortured to death by Yang Ying. You guys go first. I'm staying to provide backup. Wei Feifei quickly made her decision. She could support that sniper and raise their chances of success just a bit more. Even though she felt the odds of success were already incredibly low, just stalling the mutant zombie for a moment would be worth it. Then I'm not leaving either. Taozi shook her head. She didn't want to abandon Wei Feifei, and besides, she felt this was the right call. No matter what, that minibus had saved their lives. Running away right now would make them nothing but ungrateful cowards. At that exact moment, a gunshot rang out. The sniper rifle roared, spitting out a long tongue of fire. Wei Feifei froze. She immediately pressed her eye to her scope, her pupils shrinking. In her vision, everything suddenly became crystal clear. Where was the mutant zombie? She couldn't see it, but she clearly saw a spray of fresh blood erupting amidst the horde. It got hit. Unbelievable. She hadn't even caught a glimpse of the mutant zombie's shadow, yet that shot had actually hit its mark. However, she still wasn't entirely sure if it was the level 2 mutant zombie that got hit. Meanwhile, I was already prepping for my second shot. That last shot, even with my absolute focus, had only managed to graze the level 2 mutant zombie. Its reflexes were unbelievably fast, but even a minor wound was enough to slow its movements down just a fraction. I pushed my brain domain ability to its absolute limit. Everything around me, even the dust particles floating in the air, appeared with crystal clarity before my eyes. Right then, the level 2 mutant zombie emerged from the horde. Stepping on its own kind, it charged straight at the minibus with terrifying speed. Its target was crystal clear, the gunner room. This monster had been thoroughly enraged by me. Here it comes. Wei Feifei also managed to catch sight of it, but she couldn't pull the trigger. It was too fast. All she saw were overlapping afterimages as the zombie moved at a speed far beyond her reaction limits. There was a delay from pulling the trigger to the bullet leaving the barrel and hitting the target. At this speed, it was simply impossible to land a hit. Her heart clenched. With that terrifying strength, a single punch would smash that circular object on the roof to pieces, and the sniper inside would undoubtedly be crushed into paste. A sense of despair and failure washed over her. She wanted to help, but she didn't even have the chance to fire a shot. At the same time, when the mutant zombie appeared, Yang Ying felt his scalp go numb. Among everyone present, only he, with his psychic ability, and Fang Xingjin beside him, had detected the monster's presence. The rest only felt a terrifying pressure crashing down on them. Their instincts screamed at them to run, as if hesitating for even a second would mean certain death. Inside the gunner room, I stood as still as a rock, completely unfazed by the pressure and the incoming threat. Bang! A deafening gunshot rang out. In that exact moment, the mutant zombie appeared right in front of the minibus. For the first time, its figure was clearly visible to everyone, because it had stopped. Its long arms and legs allowed it to move at unimaginable speeds. But right now, a bullet graze was visible on its leg, and a massive, bloody hole had been blown through its abdomen. No matter how strong its physical defenses were, it couldn't withstand a sniper round at such close range. Wei Feifei looked up, her astonished gaze locked onto my figure in the gunner room. Everything that had just happened took place in less than a second. Yang Ying nearly jumped out of his seat. What the hell? The level 2 mutant zombie actually got hit. Unbelievable. Inside the gunner room, I lifted my head and let out a soft sigh of relief. It's done. Taking down this level 2 mutant zombie was absolutely not easy for me. Even the slightest mistake would have resulted in a completely different outcome. But by killing it, I obtained a level 2 mutant zombie blood nucleus, taking another crucial step toward the MCV's evolution. Zero immediately leaped out of the vehicle's window. With a flash of her figure, she quickly retrieved the blood nucleus and returned. When the zombies spotted a living person, they instantly swarmed over in a frenzy, but they couldn't even touch Zero. Her incredible agility made weaving through the zombie horde look like a walk in the park. Unable to catch Zero, the zombies quickly buried the corpse of the level 2 mutant zombie. Chilling sounds of chewing and swallowing echoed all around. Right then, Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan drove up. One steered the vehicle, while the other fired wildly into the horde. The previous battle had been too intense for them to join in, so they could only take this chance to show off a little. Moments later, gunshots rang out from behind the zombie horde. I looked outside and saw a group of survivors charging out of the small building, guns in hand. Leading them was a girl around 17 or 18. Her movements were incredibly agile. She ran and fired simultaneously, taking down a zombie with every shot. Earlier, Shiyu had sensed 2 groups of people here. This had to be the other group. After seeing me snipe the level 2 mutant zombie with her own eyes, Wei Feifei immediately led her people out of the building and launched a counterattack. The Tianji team ran away. Ran Shiyu suddenly spoke up. I turned to look. Sure enough, there was no sign of them anywhere. They sure ran fast, I sneered. I wasn't oblivious to Yang Ying sneaking behind us earlier, plotting something. It was just that the presence of the level 2 mutant zombie made me not even bother caring about him. I didn't expect them to bolt the moment I killed it. On another street, Yang Ying sat in his car, leading his team away at top speed. He only wanted to get as far away from that minibus as possible. What the hell was that? His face was incredibly grim, sweat pouring down endlessly. They just happened to bump into a random team on the road, and the other side actually killed a level 2 mutant zombie right in front of him. That terrifying marksmanship, combined with a minibus that was basically an armed monster, left him completely shell-shocked. Fortunately, his years of surviving the apocalypse gave him quick enough reflexes to order an immediate retreat. He also sensed that there was another psychic paranormal inside that minibus. Whether his murderous intent had been discovered or not, when facing someone vastly stronger, it was best not to harbor any delusions. Brother Yang, what do we do now? A team member asked. It wasn't just Yang Ying, the others were all pale as well. Hearing this, Yang Ying glared and roared. What else can we do? Even a mighty dragon can't crush a local snake. Now that they're in Jiangning, even a dragon has to coil up. Even a tiger has to lie low. He gritted his teeth and continued. We're heading back to Hejiang town. With a team like that showing up, I'm sure a lot of people will be very interested. In Jiangning, The top teams absolutely wouldn't want a new rival popping up and threatening their interests. Back on the ruined street, the fierce battle lasted for over 10 minutes. It wasn't until the ground was covered in corpses that the fighting temporarily died down. But I knew very well that it wouldn't be long before more zombies from further away swarmed in. This peace was only temporary. Wei Feifei breathed a sigh of relief. The little stamina she had just recovered was quickly drained again. Taozi sensed she used spiritual waves spreading out and immediately recognized it as the same energy that had connected with her earlier. Even though she hadn't had time to call for help back then, the result was that our team had indirectly saved their entire group. I'm the captain of this team, Wei Feifei. She walked up to the minibus and called out loudly. Taozi followed behind, bowing gratefully. Thank you for saving us and driving Yang Ying's group away. Otherwise, they definitely would have harmed us. Or we would have died at the hands of the zombies. Thinking of those possibilities, she still shuddered, not even knowing which fate would have been more terrifying. I rolled down the window and looked at the two girls and the survivors behind them. I didn't do it to save you, I said bluntly. Even so, we still have to thank your team. Wei Feifei replied firmly. I didn't say anything more. She had a point. My Shering squad had indeed saved them, albeit unintentionally. There was no reason to reject their gratitude. After a moment of thought, I continued. By the way, I have a few questions. What is it? A hint of anticipation flashed across Wei Feifei's cold face. She felt that my team was too strong, while her team had nothing worth offering, so she didn't know how to repay us. Now that I was taking the initiative to ask, she was naturally more than willing to answer everything. Where is the military safe zone? And where is the survivor trading market located? I asked. Relying solely on the Shering squad's strength might not be enough to gather all the materials needed to upgrade the MCV. Trading was clearly a more efficient route. The military safe zone isn't in downtown Jiangning. It takes over an hour to get there. As for the trading market, it's in Hejiang town on the outskirts. We can lead the way. If you want to go to the military safe zone, the most convenient route passes through Hejiang town anyway. Wei Feifei offered proactively. I turned to ask Professors Su Guangkai and Su Tong for their opinion. Su Tong smiled and said not to worry about them. Just pick the most convenient route. I nodded, turning back to Wei Feifei. Then I'll trouble you to lead the way. It's no trouble at all, Wei Feifei replied, then asked. I still don't know your team's name. Shering Squad. I'm Jiang Lushi. I introduced myself. Wei Feifei nodded slightly, silently memorizing the name. The image of me firing that shot earlier was deeply etched into her memory. She knew very well that if she had that kind of marksmanship, she wouldn't have been so helpless against Yang Ying's threats today. Feifei, hurry up. Let's get the car ready. Taozi pulled Wei Feifei's arm, then turned back and waved at me, her voice a bit shy. Oh right, my name is Taozi. After saying that, she lowered her head and dragged Wei Feifei toward their car. The car was still parked under the building. Despite being surrounded by zombies for days, it was still intact and perfectly usable. I had a pretty good impression of Wei Feifei and her group. They could have easily taken advantage of my minibus being surrounded to sneak away like Yang Ying did. But they didn't. They even took the initiative to come down and help fight. That was exactly why I agreed to let them lead the way. Brother Jiang here. Zero handed me a glowing red crystal. The moment I held it, I felt a strange sensation, as if I were holding a beating heart. My own heartbeat unconsciously synced with its rhythm. Only when I put this level 2 mutant crystal into my pocket did that feeling gradually fade. On the other side, Taozi linked arms with Wei Feifei, glancing at the minibus and whispering in admiration. Feifei, Jiang Lushi looks so young. He's even more handsome than Yang Ying. She recalled the moment I fired the shot, feeling both scared and full of admiration. She couldn't understand how someone around her age could be so incredible and so cool on top of that. He didn't show that lustful gaze like other men did. Why are you bringing this up? Wei Feifei frowned, glancing at Taozi with a sigh. You're such a fangirl. Taozi just giggled. You need to snap out of it, Wei Feifei said. In the apocalypse, strong men never lack women. Even many who used to be arrogant are now willing to throw themselves at them. She didn't want the people around her to become like that. All right. I can't even say a few words. Fei Fei, you're so stiff. I'm afraid you'll never get married at this rate. It's the end of the world. I have no intention of getting married anyway. As long as I'm strong enough, I don't need to rely on anyone. Wei Fei Fei replied coldly. Geez, you're only 17 and you're already this cold. Think about it. Didn't we rely on someone else today? Before Taozi could finish, Wei Fei Fei covered her mouth and dragged her straight into the car. Let's go. To Hejiang Town. Captain Jiang, Hejiang Town is just up ahead. Taozi's voice was transmitted to my ears through Ran Shiyu. Taozi also had a psychic ability, but its intensity was far weaker than Shiyu's, and she wasn't good at telepathy, so she had to rely on Shiyu to relay her words. I looked ahead. At the end of the road, a cluster of buildings and numerous gathered vehicles faintly appeared. It was late afternoon, and the temperature was starting to drop. The sky was gloomy, with heavy clouds looking as if they were about to crush the town. It made Hejiang Town look like a ferocious beast lurking in the shadows. Ahead of us, there were already a few other convoys heading toward the town. According to Taozi's introduction, these vehicles could be survivors from other parts of Jiangning coming to trade, or teams returning from hunting and scavenging for supplies. Hejiang Town wasn't just a trading market. It was also a settlement for powerful survivor teams and the smaller groups affiliated with them. The entire market was overseen and kept in order by these powerful teams. The military safe zone is north of Hejiang Town, Taozi continued. I nodded. Got it. It was getting late. We definitely wouldn't make it to the military safe zone today. As the vehicles arrived at the front of the town, before they even came to a complete stop, several people swarmed around us. Most of them were women, dressed rather revealingly, speaking in sweet, coaxing voices. Here to trade? Do you need market info for today and tomorrow? But the moment Wei Fei Fei stepped out of the car, her cold aura instantly made the crowd of women scatter. Captain Jiang. Wei Fei Fei walked over to the minibus. The door opened, and I stepped out. What were those people doing? I asked. They're residents of Hejiang Town. The goods and trading info in the market change every day. They compile it and sell it to the teams. A lot of men in the teams also like having women around. For the right price, they're willing to do other kinds of transactions. If you pay enough, you can even buy them outright, Wei Fei Fei explained nonchalantly. Hearing her talk about such sensitive topics with such a calm tone actually made me feel a bit uncomfortable. Wei Fei Fei still looked very young. Hearing her talk about these things made me a little awkward. I coughed lightly and said, Call one of them over. We don't have much time, so we need a guide. As soon as I said that, a few women overheard and quickly crowded around. I was young and didn't look bad. Compared to those big, rough-looking men, they all wanted me as their client. Handsome pick-me. My info is always top tier. Captain, I feel like we're meant to be. A heavily made-up woman squeezed to the front, winking at me. You say that to everyone. It sounds so fake. Pick me, I'm cheap and good. Another woman was even more blunt. Watching the women shoving each other in front of me, I felt like I was standing at a bus station where people were loudly soliciting. Want to grab a bite? Need a place to stay? Need a taxi? The noise was giving me a headache. I glanced to the side, my eyes landing on a young woman who was being pushed to the back. She wanted to step forward and pitch herself like the others, but she hesitated, too afraid to speak up. You, I called out. The young woman froze, seemingly unable to believe I was talking to her. Stop looking around, I mean you. How much to hire you? I asked. Looking at her demeanor, I guess she was new to this. She looked much more honest than the others. Half a caddy of rice, she answered hesitantly, her voice as quiet as a mosquito. If my hearing wasn't sharp, I probably wouldn't have caught it. Then I'll pick you, I said. The young woman looked at me, her eyes instantly lighting up with a joyful smile. For a survivor team, half a caddy of rice was nothing. But for an ordinary person, it was enough food for a day or two. They didn't always have work, and when they didn't, they mostly had to starve. Hearing that I had made my choice, the other women scattered in disappointment, going back to wait for other convoys. She hurriedly stepped forward. Up close, she looked to be in her early 20s, probably college age. Her clothes were clean, her hair neat. She wore no makeup, but it was clear she had tried her best to look presentable. Master, my name is Lin Jia. She introduced herself nervously. No need to be so formal. Just answer whatever I ask you later. I cut her off. Yes, yes, Lin Jie nodded repeatedly, then added, Thank you, master. Don't call me master. Call me Captain Jiang. I'm not used to hearing that word. I'm sorry, I understand, Captain Jiang, she replied timidly. Captain Jiang, you have to pay an entrance fee to get into the town, Lin Jie added. An entrance fee? There was never a rule like this before. Wei Feifei frowned. Lin Jie quickly explained, It's a new rule. They started enforcing it half a month ago. Half a month? I really haven't been back to Hejiang town in half a month. But people coming here to trade is the very reason the town thrives. Isn't charging an entrance fee completely unreasonable? Wei Feifei said angrily. This was set by the people in power here. I'm just passing on the message. Lin Jie said anxiously. Don't worry, I'm not blaming you. How much is the entrance fee? I asked. Half a caddy of rice per team, Lin Jie answered softly. We count as one team. Give them half a caddy of rice, I said. I didn't want to cause trouble the moment I set foot in Hejiang town, and half a caddy of rice really meant nothing to me. Nowadays, rice was just something I ate occasionally for a change of taste. It was no longer my main staple. Let me pay, Wei Feifei insisted. I let her do it. She handed half a caddy of rice to Lin Jie to pay the gate guards, and at the same time, paid her the guide fee. Receiving her share of the rice, Lin Jie was so overjoyed that her hands trembled. She carefully put the rice into a cloth bag she carried with her, then bowed gratefully. Thank you both so much. No need to thank us. You earned it, I said. Actually, there's no guarantee with our line of work. Lin Jie's voice dropped. We're weak. If we meet someone who refuses to pay, there's nothing we can do. Some people even have bad intentions. Looking at her demeanor, it was obvious she was terrified of such situations. But no matter how scared she was, she could only keep working as a guide. Otherwise, she would definitely starve to death. Go pay the entrance fee, I said. After paying the fee, our vehicles were allowed into the parking lot inside the town. Those who didn't want to or couldn't afford to pay the fee could only gather outside. I glanced at the crowd. Most of them were destitute survivors. They had very few goods on display, and there was nothing I needed. They were mostly ordinary people, wearing thick cotton coats or old down jackets, squatting on the ground or next to their cars, looking incredibly wretched. The parking lot was less than 200 meters from the gate. From there inward, numerous small roadside stalls began to appear. Even though it was late afternoon, in this safe zone, the stalls would stay open until very late. These roadside stalls mostly sell miscellaneous items. If Captain Jiang wants to make large trades, there's no need to waste time here. Having received her pay up front and seeing that I was easy to talk to, Lin Jie began to speak more freely. Wei Feifei only brought Taozi, while I brought Jiang Zhiying, Ran Xiu, and Ying. Everyone else stayed on the minibus. Even though this place looked fairly safe, I didn't dare let my guard down. Leaving the professors in the vehicle gave me more peace of mind. I nodded as I listened to Lin Jie's explanation. Right then, I felt a slight movement in my pocket. I instantly went on high alert, quickly grabbing my pocket. What was going on? Did even Xiu fail to detect something unusual? But the moment I gripped my pocket, I immediately understood. A very soft squeak came from inside. Luoluo. I had no idea when it had sneaked into my pocket. I pulled the pocket open and saw a furry little head trying to burrow deeper, its long paws still wiggling. I was honestly speechless. Did it think that as long as it buried its head, I wouldn't be able to see it? That place over there is the biggest market. Large transactions happen there every day. The teams going in and out of there are all powerful ones. Lin Jie said as she led us toward a large building. Today, they're trading weapons, firearms, grenades, explosives, intel on cleared zombie zones, mutant beast distributions, and even slaves. When she mentioned the last word, her expression became complicated. She clearly didn't want to bring it up, but in Hejiang town, this kind of trade was very common. They trade intel too? Then maybe there'll be news about level 2 mutant zombies. Oh right, do they trade special metals here? I asked. I'm not sure about special metals, but if Captain Jiang needs them, you can post a buying request. Usually, someone will respond, as long as it's not too rare. That's good, I nodded. Just then, I saw a burly, fierce-looking man striding over aggressively. My eyes turned cold. Beside me, Wei Feifei had already placed her hand on the gun at her waist. But the man wasn't aiming for me. He walked straight toward Lin Jie. Terrified, she instinctively stepped back to hide behind me. The man stood in front of her, his voice dropping low. Perfect timing. Come with me for a bit. Lin Jie trembled and whispered to me. Captain Jiang, I have some business to attend to. Please wait for me a moment. After saying that, she timidly followed the man to a corner. You haven't handed in your cut for the past few days. I haven't had any clients lately. Lin Jie quickly explained. But you just got a gig today, didn't you? He glanced in our direction. Hand it over. Lin Jie hesitated, clutching her bag of rice tightly, her voice trembling. Brother Yan, can you give me a few days' grace? My little sister is only 12. She's still growing. Cut the crap. Give it here. Brother Yan lost his patience and snatched the bag of rice from her hands. Opening the bag to look, his face instantly darkened. This is it. There was only half a caddy of rice in the bag, a pitifully small amount. Watching him hold the bag of rice with disdain, the opening not even tied shut, so the rice almost spilled out, Lin Jie's eyes turned red with distress. To him, this amount was nothing. But to her, it was her very life. Brother Yan, how about you leave this portion for me? I'll hand in more in a few days, Lin Jie pleaded. Go tell that to Sister Jian. Don't tell me. He sneered. If you really want your sister to eat better, why don't you take proper care of those clients? How much can you make just selling information? Those words made Lin Jie's face turn deathly pale. She wasn't a child. She naturally understood exactly what he was implying. Otherwise, you could just serve me, Brother Yan smirked, his eyes sweeping up and down Lin Jie's body. He had been lusting after her for a long time.